It was my coming to understand that statistically, we should not be here. The odds are so small that you're alive listening to this, that the word improbability doesn't do it justice. It's a miracle in every sense of the word. And so, what do we do about that? How do you explain a feeling? How do you explain the cost of not going, of fewer sunrises, less laughter, untapped creativity, unwalked paths, journeys never started? You can't. Which is why you have to go. Good is not detrimental because it's insufficient. It's detrimental because it gives you just enough to make stepping out into the world feel illogical. It's a warm blanket keeping you comfortable enough to forfeit that feeling you truly crave. And I hope it's clear, my take in this is not that we aren't enough. It's that we have to be reminded that our biological compass points towards survival. And survival is a game of stagnation. Our souls, on the other hand, they need to run, to seek out the magnificence of life. And the more times we can be tapped on the shoulder and reminded of this, the better. See, I don't dream of new horizons because I'm ungrateful. I've learned to chase them down because I'm so grateful that I refuse to forfeit the gift. To leave my curiosity packaged and confined, I want to bask in life's abundance before my time here is up. And that's just it. That's the whole point. The friction between the knowing and the doing. Making that happen, physically bringing yourself there. It's not an easy thing. Certainly not as easy as putting your feet up and rationalizing the status quo. It's why I listen to voices that inspire me, read stories that teach me, I talk to people who lift me up. Going is harder than staying. But meaning resides in the going. So no, it's not about being LeBron James. It's about getting off the bench and at least shooting a shot. Whatever a shot means to you, wherever you are. Because if you don't, you'll never experience the thrill of having made one, of having felt that success. It's not about what you're doing, it's about what you're leaving on the table. Is average terrible? I don't know. Is a Ferrari never taken out of its garage terrible? Not really, it's still a Ferrari, but it won't experience the very thing that Ferrari was designed to experience. Again, how do you quantify that? You can't. Not until you go. So here's to stepping out of whatever the present definition of normalcy is in your world. Maybe not frantically changing the world around you, but certainly questioning the good, questioning yourself, questioning the road you're on. Has the routine overshadowed the reason you put the routine into place? Has the way things are come to outweigh the way you'd like them to be? Has good become a distraction, misdirecting you away from both life's brilliance and your own? Marcus Aurelius once said, "It's not death that men should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live." And so, there's the obvious question, what does it mean to truly live? To live one's life to the fullest. I don't think that's a one-size-fits-all question. I think we all want different things. I think an ideal reality is different for every single one of us, but I do believe across the board, everyone should be looking around and reflecting and asking what matters to me, and am I living in a way conducive to that? Am I positioning myself for that life? Or conversely, have I built walls? Am I doing things just to do them? Have I confined myself to a world of limitation? Right? That is the question. On a recent podcast, Ryan Holiday said something on the topic that I thought was pretty profound. He said, amateurs are obsessed with tools, referring to productivity stuff. He was chatting with productivity YouTuber. And it's like, okay, well, why is that concerning, right? To be obsessed with tools. And it's concerning, as he explains, because they are seeking to optimize the things that they're not even doing, right? Which is a great way to never get there. He kind of elaborated that obsessing about productivity is a form of procrastination. We worry too much about constructing that perfect path, right? There is no perfect path. And that friction, that resistance or procrastination is just fear in disguise. The journey is the marble from which you chip away at excellence. You don't need a perfect path, you need to go. You need to point the compass in a general direction and begin. The crazy, chaotic, unpredictable variables of life are what we use to build. I think Mike Tyson nailed it when he said everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. Right? Life is unpredictable. It's messy. It's not a perfection game. It's an adjustment game. And the ones who can get hit and bounce back will move exponentially further than the ones seeking to create some perfection before they leave their front door. And so the question is, do you have that strength to simply push into the night? Because as counterintuitive as it may seem, on the other side exists the dawn. As Marcus Aurelius suggests, that life we're meant to live exists beyond the haze. Now, two things can obviously be true at once. I'm not saying preparation is the enemy here. Preparation is certainly a huge factor when determining something's outcome or success. But there comes a time where you have to be honest with yourself. You have to realize you can't plan your way to greatness. Right? You're worried to walk into the chaos. That's all. You're worried about skinning your knees because, let's be real, it's way easier to sit inside on a couch and plan how to trudge through the mud than to actually go out and do it. And as it turns out, it is the latter piece that makes all the difference. Right? The latter piece is life. The trudging, the pushing, the finding a way. It may seem unnecessary or avoidable even from the confines of that living room, looking out at the world through your window, but the courage to go is the cost of admission. It's the thinker versus the doer metaphor, right? By the time the thinker has acted, the doer is long gone, 1,000 feet ahead. They've made their mistakes, they've learned, they've collected data, they're planning in real time as their feet move. That's life as it was meant to be lived. And believe it or not, that's the rubric by which we'll actually judge ourselves. Did I have the courage to do the things that mattered? You know those situations, we all come across them, where you're kind of kicking yourself for not doing something that was just a little uncomfortable? Your heart, your soul was trying to push you there, but you couldn't bring yourself to do it. Maybe speaking in class, proposing something at work, asking someone out, submitting something online, whatever it may be, the ship came and it went. And you were there from the dock, watching it sail away, annoyed because you know in your gut you wanted to to do it. You should have done it. You were called to do it. Well, take that feeling and bottle it up. Multiply it by whatever number you think is sufficient for someone at the end of life, in their 80s or 90s, looking back at all those times they didn't act. Reflecting back on all those ships that they had to watch sail away. Why? Because they were waiting for perfect. They waited so long and so desperately for perfection that life slipped away. That's a pain I never want to feel. That moment is the true Grim Reaper. It's not death we are running from. It is the possibility that we were given all of this and we let it slip away. So point your compass and go. You won't feel ready. It certainly won't feel perfect, but it will position you for growth. It will give you something. And something is the beginning of everything. The world reflects back at us what we currently are, like a giant mirror projecting the movie that's playing in our heads. We lay on the horn in traffic, not when we're at peace with ourselves, but when we're in duress. We gravitate towards the negative, not when we're living in abundance, but when we're living in scarcity. We quit, retreat, contract, not when we're confident in the road ahead, but when we're doubtful, alarmed. In other words, we find out in the world what already lives within us. Life, in many ways, is not absolute, it's evidence. It's evidence that we'll use to justify the things we already believe. Wayne Dyer used to use the metaphor of an orange. It can be squeezed and squeezed and squeezed, but there will never be grapefruit juice pouring out of an orange. No, grapefruit juice doesn't live there. You can only find on the outside what lives in the inside. You can only extract from the orange juice. Recently, a good friend of mine said to me that they'd like to change their financial situation. To which my response was, perfect. You most certainly can, right? Like anything, yeah, it'll take work and some planning and some restructuring, all that good stuff, but you most definitely can. And his response was, sure, that's what all you motivational people say. Okay, smart guy. Now you're an example on a podcast episode. Congrats. Why? Because you want the people around you to realize how much is possible for themselves, right? It's not sorcery or witchcraft to believe something better is possible. In fact, if one doesn't believe it's possible, they're effectively cementing their feet to the ground, at least with regard to that particular pursuit. Let's face it, you don't begin journeys that are not possible. We don't allow ourselves to do that. And so, to not believe in an outcome and somehow still wish for that outcome, well, that's essentially our orange metaphor, right? Can't squeeze financial freedom out of a mindset that only sees monetary constraint. Believing it's possible starts the journey. See, there's so much pragmatism in growth. You know, people talk a lot about the law of attraction, and yeah, I get it, right? It sets targets. But the picture of, let's say, a dream house on your wall is not why you'll eventually have the dream house. The picture of the dream house on the wall reminds you. It helps you believe that you're someone capable of someday acquiring that house, obtaining that type of success, which results in you, wait for it, doing things that help bring that to life. It is the doing. But that doing must be connected to belief. Mid-20s. I was unhappy, wanted more, but didn't really believe myself capable of obtaining more, right? That was the issue. Back to the old orange expecting grapefruit juice. can't get results in an area not conducive to their creation, right? It wasn't until I said, you know what, maybe, not definitely, but maybe it could happen. Maybe I can take control here. The odds have to be greater than 0%, right? It's Jim Carrey and Dumb and Dumber, so you're saying there's a chance. Yeah, it's like starting out, that's all you need, a chance, the door cracked. In the beginning, I just needed to convince myself something different was possible. The beginning of transformation and that internal change prompted how I interacted with the external world. You do things differently when you believe differently. Or, if you want to phrase it another way, believing that you can bring something to life doesn't guarantee that you actually do. But believing you can't guarantees that you won't. And why not stack the odds in your favor? I often juggle back and forth between the philosophical and the tangible or the tactical, right? 3 ways to do X. Life hack to change Y. Yeah, of course. Life does in so many ways come down to the tactics, to the how, to the steps. But does that even matter if you don't believe in the pursuit? Does it matter what Google Maps says if you never step out your front door? You have to convince you. You have to create an environment in your world where change isn't crazy, more isn't absurd. It might be challenging, but it's possible, and possible is enough. It is enough to begin, enough to step out, enough to see the trivialities as tools and the resistance as part of a beautiful game. Remember that the world is a mirror, reflecting back at us our worldview. We find what we look for, so give yourself permission to look for things that make life beautiful. Give yourself the gift of believing change is possible. I'm gonna be selfish, because this message is exactly what I need right now. Exactly what I need to walk myself through. And so I'm gonna dive into it fully with the hope that in some context, in some capacity, you can pull this message or idea and inject it into your own life. Whatever it is you're going through, whatever it is you're navigating. Long story short, it's the shiny objects again. It's forgetting what brought me here, what I love, what matters most. It's looking around, knowing the destination, but spending time doing me things that aren't bringing me there. So how does that happen? Misalignment tends to sneak up like a lion stalking its prey. In fact, sometimes I imagine the value of a giant mosquito net that could be placed around the things that matter so that all that complexity can't make its way in. Let the externalities remain external, right? And I walk and I think and I wonder, why is simplicity so difficult to protect? Why is alignment always seeking to collapse in on itself? And personally, why is my inclination, the second I stop paying attention, to wander off the tracks and navigate in circles? And well, that's the good news. It's like when you realize you've wandered off track or you're in arenas that aren't yours, you can finally do something about it. In fact, that may be the most important part. Life is about casting and reeling in, casting and reeling in. It's fire, aim, fire, aim, fire, aim. maybe wandering places we shouldn't be, shines the greatest spotlight on where we should be. It's the best way to wake up one's intuition. Because intuition tells you what you already know. But its magic is that it tells you so loudly that it drowns out the minutia. The brain needs the heart. Otherwise, we become capable doers of meaningless things. I think life-changing things generally are not complex things. Right, let's do the exercise. The same exercise I've been doing for years. The ultimate self-awareness assessment. A, where is your finish line? Close your eyes. Do you see it? Can you picture it? Okay, perfect. Now B, how are you spending your time? And is how you're spending your time taking you to that finish line? Is who you're spending your time with taking you to that finish line? Or maybe you need to shake the snow globe entirely. Maybe you need to define what your finish lines are, which may just be the spot I currently find myself. Micro example, the other day I was with my trainer doing some barbell overhead shoulder press and was focusing on the top of the movement. And he says, look, for what we are trying to do here, sculpt and define your shoulders, you're paying attention to things that don't matter, that are not creating the greatest impact. The greatest impact is going to be the lower third of the movement. So focus there, right? And it's a smaller example of a macro question. Are you focusing your time and energy on the things that are going to get you to where you need to be? J.R.R. Tolkien wrote through his character Gandalf, all we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to us. I love that quote. That quote is everything, the alpha and the omega, the beginning and the end. We are what we do, what we focus on. And so when time passes, when we look around and see less and less correlation between how time is spent and where we want to be, the e-brake needs to be pulled. Expecting something without committing to the required action to bring it to life, well, that's pretty close to delusion, if you ask me. And I've danced around that flame of delusion many times before. Right? Sometimes without thinking or ignorance, sometimes simply being wrong. But it's happened, right? Like, why am I not gaining muscle or improving my physique? I would ask myself as I ran 10 miles a day, 6 days a week in South Florida. Obviously, there's a misalignment there. Seems obvious now. It's so obvious that it's almost laughable. But that was just a misunderstanding, right? Actions and expectations unlinked. And to those not familiar with this arena, this one may seem a bit out there, but I decided recently to stop calling myself an entrepreneur and instead start calling myself an artist or a creator. Why? You might even think, who cares what you call yourself? Stop being so vain. But here's the reality. We follow through on who and what we believe ourselves to be. Sure, there are entrepreneurial elements in brand building, content creation, the media business. But also, my circle consists primarily of entrepreneurs. My friends all have businesses, have exited businesses, they're growing and scaling businesses. And so naturally, without even thinking about it in a lot of ways, I start to look at my work more and more procedurally, systems, workflows, scale. Great, to an extent. But the magic is in the message, it's in the craft, it's in the creation. I've had to tell myself this 900 different times, 900 different ways. It's like that metaphor about the mosquito net I mentioned not too long ago. It's like, why is everything else trying to collapse in on that truth, on that simplicity? Because every time I deviate from me, I find myself wandering through a desert of discontent. I have to learn this same damn thing every 6 months. And, part of my realization is that's okay. I think growth requires a rewiring and readjustment. Consistent acclimation. But you have to continuously pull back in what matters, right? It was not systems and workflows that got me here. It was telling stories and helping people see the value that surrounds them. That's what makes me happy. That's what I'm best at. And I feel like a kid on Christmas every time I come back to that, right? You stretch a little too far, learn, dial it in. Find yourself stronger than you were. Stretch a little too far, learn, dial it back in. Find yourself stronger than you were. It's like going to the gym, breaking the muscle down so that you can be built back up stronger. And so perhaps the value here is an opportunity for you to similarly think to yourself, what am I doing? And is it taking me where I most want to go? And if not, doesn't mean you've wasted time. It's not an indictment on the steps you've taken or the paths you've walked. It's a celebration of the awareness, of the newness, the novelty in the next chapter. It's a celebration of the fact that you, just like me, can go anywhere we want to go next. The wake of the boat does not drive the boat. This moment in and of itself is new. It's a rebirth, a creation. What will we do with it? We go too far in order to regulate and find ourselves better than we were when that dust finally settles. But what's absolutely imperative is asking the questions. It's looking at your own life like an eagle flying overhead, seeing things holistically, big picture. Emerson said famously, hitch your wagon to a star. So find the star that lights up your soul and make sure each step guides you not away from, but towards that light. Those little blasts of intuition, they matter. They mean something. They are reminding the brain that doing the wrong things will bring empty victories. Trust me, you can win a race you care nothing about, and a lot of people do. Define your terms and execute. Choose your mountaintop and ascend. We explore in order to refine. So let each step be a chiseling away of what no longer serves you, so that you can capture the pieces of life that light up your soul. You don't have to know everything. In fact, you don't even need to know most things. But you do have to know that progress often calls for us to move forward without knowing. It asks that we're willing to learn along the way, to pick up the pieces as we walk by them. And that's a vulnerability that is sometimes tough to face, right? It's a nakedness that we never really shake. The idea that in order to grow, we have to leave the now, ill-prepared for tomorrow, but knowing that we have everything we need to make the transition. The losses become lessons, the failures become data points, the mistakes become our clarity. And until we understand this, there really isn't an upward trajectory. We place too much value on the known, the things we understand, the cyclical nature of a day-to-day that is as much as life can be, predictable and determined. Characteristics that are actually antithetical to growth. In fact, one could make an argument that in this incredible day and age of information, our need and ability to know often comes at the expense of true transformation. Right? I studied podcasts for so long before I started one that I could have created and improved upon my own, 400 times over. I had to find out who uses what, when to upload, how long the episode should be, and on and on. There are books and videos, there are classes and coaches. All of it wonderful, I'm sure, in its own way. But nothing so powerful as that university of experience, of life. The idea of the thinker and the doer. The thinker that absorbs and contemplates, weighs one option versus another and another. Exhausting time sufficient for the doer to fall on her face twice, pick up the pieces, make necessary changes, and be on her way. See, the information is out there. It exists and can be incredibly valuable, but simultaneously can contribute to us thinking our way into stagnation. A thing can only be what you make it. Right? Things provide the value you decide to extract from them. I like using the example of water because it's simple. Water is necessary to sustain life. Without it, one cannot go on. Too much of it, however, can sink a ship or flood a building. Too much is disastrous. And you can, pretty much fill in the blank with anything else here to demonstrate that point. Life is a balance between not enough and too much. Scarcity and excess. But my opinion is that now, with regard to information and technology, we exist on the too much side of the spectrum. I can't even remember the last time I was having a conversation about something I wasn't sure about without interrupting it to pull out my phone and Google the answer. Again, this has its positives. Knowledge is power, but to what extent? And I'm talking big picture here. This is about so much more than, picking up a phone to Google information. This is about never feeling like we're equipped enough to step into something new. Because we can always be obtaining more. And it's like, where do you draw that line? I now, because of the accessibility of information, find myself frequently staring like a deer in headlights. Because some minor detail hasn't been made clear to me. Because everything is not perfectly ironed out. My brain has become conditioned to know. Because knowing is now incredibly easy. But life is about generating a meaningful existence. Meaning is carved from unknowns. It's not Googled or found on Wikipedia. A podcast or YouTube video can't give you meaning. They might help you prepare or point you in the right direction, but meaning is about self-discovery. It's about, taking those things you learn, but giving them life. It's pulled out of the world around you like diamonds from the earth. Necessarily calling for going when you don't know exactly what the destination looks like. Starting when you don't know what the end result will be. We are consuming at the expense of living. Absorbing at the expense of feeling, right? There's the idea that a business book is not the same thing as creating a business. Being on social media is not the same thing as being social. It's an aspect of those things served up without the risk or the upside. That is not real life. In one of my favorite movies, Good Will Hunting, Robin Williams' character, a therapist, is talking to Matt Damon's character, He plays this brilliant young man who has, a photographic memory. He's read every book in the library. He's a genius. But even with all that, he doesn't quite have the courage to move out of his little world into something bigger, into the opportunity that's available for him if only he'd find the strength to seek it out. And here's a segment of Robin Williams trying to explain that to Matt Damon. He says, "So if I asked you about art, you'd probably give me this skinny on every art book ever written. Michelangelo, you know a lot about life's work, political aspirations, him and the Pope, sexual orientation, whole works, right? But I bet you can't tell me what it smells like in the Sistine Chapel. You've never actually stood there and looked up at that beautiful ceiling, seen that. If I asked you about women, you'd probably give me a syllabus on your personal favorites. You may have even been late a few times, but you can't tell me what it feels like to wake up next to a woman and feel truly happy. You're a tough kid. I ask you about war, and you'd probably throw Shakespeare at me, right? Once into the breach, dear friends. But you've never been near one. You've never held your best friend's head in your lap and watched him gasp his last breath looking to you for help. I look at you, I don't see an intelligent, confident man. I see a cocky, scared kid." And the quote goes on, but the idea is a powerful one. And one of the reasons I've rewatched that scene over and over, it's not that he's trying to belittle the character. He's trying to help him explore the depths of his own personality, his needs and desires, trying to arm him with the understanding that he's strong enough to move beyond the walls he's built around himself, that all that knowledge he's obtained and acquired is meaningless unless he gives it life. Knowing isn't enough. And I want to qualify this again because it's important you meet me where I am. I'm not making a case for ignorance or, books, knowledge, understanding. That's critical, but it's the other piece that makes life worth living. You don't get the reward without the risk, and the risk requires that one moves into the haze without clear understanding of an outcome. It's moving into life without total certainty. And we are hardwired for that certainty. We're built to want to know. And now on top of that, we have the tools to take in infinite knowledge. I want this to be a reminder that we have to circumnavigate that idea to some extent. We have to trust ourselves to figure things out as we go. That waiting until we have everything figured out simply leaves the door cracked for regret to sneak in and make itself comfortable. There's an entire world out there waiting for you not to have it all figured out, but to instead stumble upon the realization that you don't have to know. To move forward, you have to simply trust. That's when the world will transform before your eyes.
hello, and welcome to day 4. Who's up for day 4? So who's excited? So today is a really interesting day, and the first 3 days have really been about the right information. Like, we started off with why diversification on day 1, day 2 and day 3 was all about the right information. But today is about the right partners. And from my experience, if you don't get the right partners, that's where you're going to make the biggest mistakes and lose the most money. I'm sure that almost everyone on this call will have an experience where you've made a mistake and lost money, something to do with other people. And, people say to me, and I've been saying this for years, you invest in property. Well, you don't actually invest in property, you invest in people. It's the people that are running the property. It's the people that are going to execute on the property. And even if you own a property outright, you still got a management agent, you still got tenants. It's still a people game. So this today is all about partners in terms of the overall process. And what I want to do with you, I want to share with you a video that we made in 2015. So believe it or not, yes, 2015. And one of the big things in life is always about your vision and your purpose and where do you want to go. So we spoke already a lot about this is not a get-rich-quick scheme, and how you need to have a vision. You need to know where you're wanting to go over the next 5 years, over the next 10 years. So 10 years ago, in 2015, we actually put together this video. And this video summarizes the entire ecosystem that we have now built. So I'm super excited to say to you that everything that you now see in this video is now built. But hopefully it'll give you a better understanding of how we all fit together and how we can help you achieve your objective. And why is this important as we go into partners? Well, as we learn about partners today, again, you've got the option. You can go and do it all yourself, or you can literally, through our network, I suppose, you can actually partner with some of the best in the world. So let me find you the video that I'm looking for. And where has it gone now? Oh, that's weird. So just give me 2 seconds. Oh, that is so weird. I don't know where my video's gone. Come on, man.
Scott, is it the ecosystem video?
Yeah.
Do you want to play it from mind?
Yeah, if you can, please, I'd appreciate it. Sorry, for some reason, for the life of me, it's not in my library.
We'd like to introduce you to a revolution unlike any other throughout the history of mankind. This is a wealth revolution, and it's going global. Did you ever think that you'd be able to benefit from the only real, time-honored investment mankind has ever known? Real estate. Real estate investing has only ever been accessible to a small percentage of the world's population. This is no longer the case. The wealth revolution means that wherever you are on your wealth journey, be it taking your first steps or taking off globally, you can join our global community, a community of real estate investors just like you. The Global Wealth Group is experiencing exponential growth, and wealth has never been this accessible. A truly global wealth revolution. We dream big, and our dream is to impact the lives of 1 billion people. 1 billion people. How will we do this? Through groundbreaking digital platforms that allow investors like you to take part in exciting real estate investment opportunities. These opportunities are waiting for you everywhere, anywhere, worldwide. Now you can invest in real estate with any amount of money, from the comfort of your couch or your internet device. Introducing our global brand ecosystem. Wealth Create, Wealth Migrate, Wealth University, The Wealth Movement. WealthCreate.com is a platform for those taking their first steps on the wealth journey. The new investors who earn whilst they learn using real or virtual currency. Imagine this. Now anyone can own part of a hospital, a share in their local shopping mall, co-invest in a new and exciting development, or even earn quarterly returns from residential and commercial tenants. They, you, can now stand alongside multi-millionaire investors and earn the same relative amounts. WealthMigrate.com is a platform for those investors who are already soaring, as well as those who seek to join them. You can now own and manage a global portfolio of commercial real estate and do it all online. You'll benefit from the capital growth of your investments and get paid quarterly dividends in first world currencies, whether they be from commercial tenants or the funding of developments. The global dashboard shows all available opportunities, potential investment pledges, upcoming deals, and most importantly, allows you to manage your global diversified portfolio in one place. Passports and visas also become easier to obtain, as well as tax-efficient structures that allow global flexibility. Create the freedom you desire for you and your family. WealthUniversity.org is a video-based e-learning platform for those who want their wealth knowledge to take off. Our research shows that the wealth mindset is the single most important aspect of creating and sustaining wealth. Test your wealth IQ and challenge friends and family to find out theirs. Acquire the thinking, secrets, habits, and proven success strategies used by the world's wealthiest investors, as well as that of our global community, who aren't just talking about it, but are actually creating it. Graduate and change your destiny and your future. WealthMovement.com is the global gathering of our fans and followers in conferences hosted in local cities around the world, inspiring minds to help each other create more sustainable global wealth. The goal? To build a wealthier world together, and together to help reduce the wealth gap between the haves and the have-nots. Gain the latest up-to-the-minute knowledge of technology forecasts, internet finance, exponential thinking, collaborative smart investing, co-creation, apps and platforms, global wealth forecasts, cryptocurrencies, and new and exciting investment opportunities. This is your chance to meet your global wealth partners, co-investors, and friends, to be inspired by the world's wealthiest individuals and to learn to think how they do. We are pioneering a global wealth revolution. Join us. Let's change the world.
So what do you think? Pretty cool, eh? So we basically presented that in October 2015. So it's literally 10 years later. And the nice thing is I'm super proud of the team, but literally everything is built. So everything you see there is built, which is pretty cool. Okay, let's rock and roll. We're into day 4, and day 4 is all about risk management. How do you manage risk? Well, primarily you manage it through your partners, and you manage it through mitigating your investment diversification in terms of the overall process. So what we want to do and what we're going to look at today is we're going to look at risk management strategies. We're going to look at how diversification plays a crucial role in that. And we're basically going to help you understand investment risk and how to reduce risk. So I don't know about you, but does anyone here like losing money? I know I certainly don't. So this is about risk management. And as Warren Buffett says, rule number 1 of investing, don't lose money. Rule number 2, refer to rule number 1. So, you know, that's the whole purpose here around risk management and why this is so important. I know we've been here for 4 days now, but just a reminder of some of the tips for success. Play full attention, take notes, try and teach someone else, play full on, do the exercises, commit to action, the goals, take action, have fun, etc., etc., etc. So they're all the things that can help you get the most out of it. Again, the resources guide. So if you want to go to the resources guide, you've got access to all the different resources. You've got access to the recording. I personally, something that Shane and I are talking about at the moment is the amount of stuff that we give you for free. I know you're giving us your time, and we want to add as much value as possible, but there's a lot of resources there in terms of everything that we're putting together. And if I literally click on the link that Shane has just put in there, and I go through to day 3 as an example, I can watch the recording. I've got all the different resources, links, etc. Everything is here. You can go join the Wealth Hackers. You can join the Passive Income Challenge. You can book a discovery call in terms of that overall process. So everything is here in terms of that process. I must admit, I'm not quite sure how Shane could make it easier for you in terms of having everything all in one place in terms of the process. You've got the WhatsApp group, which hopefully you've already joined, and the university. If you haven't joined the community group, I strongly recommend that you do, because this is a group of like-minded people that are consistently discussing what is happening, and you can go in and you can basically see, like day 3, what were all the different people's opinions, what did they come up with. It's fantastic. So well done to all of you that have done it. There's so much learning and growth that one can get through this whole process. Okay, the homework competition for those that posted their homework, and a reminder that it's the VIP upgrade. And in terms of the prizes, the winner for the homework is William Graham. So congratulations to William. Fantastic on the work that you've been doing. Shane is taking a note of all the different contributors. Just to remember that tomorrow is the grand prize. So we have a grand prize on Friday. So well done to William. Congratulations for all the contributions that you're doing at the moment. Fantastic. Really, really awesome. Okay. And what William has just won is a Wealth Hackers annual subscription. So well done to you. We told you that we ramp up the prizes. So the first 3 days is the VIP. And we tend to find what happens is the dabblers are gone by now. We don't even worry about the dabblers by Thursday. But obviously people are tired, and it's the week and it's a lot of stuff. And so we actually ramp up the prizes. And tomorrow we've got an even better prize in terms of that process. So well done to you, William. We look forward to you being a wealth hacker. I wear my T-shirt with prize. Prize, I can't speak English. With pride. So anyway, well done on winning that prize. Okay, so you can still win it by joining the university, engaging in the chat. And if you want to join the VIP, you can still get access to all of the recordings. So just reminding you, we still got the live session today, the live session tomorrow, plus you'll get the recording of all the other live sessions, and you'll get access to all the training. Because for those of you that are on the free section, remembering that on the weekend, the recordings come down, and it's only the VIPs and the wealth hackers that will have access to it ongoing. And, I so enjoy all the comments that come through all the time from the value that people get in terms of that process. So, yeah, it's really, really amazing what people have to say, in terms of the feedback. So this is a slide that I would recommend that you screenshot, because this is what we do all in one place. So the focus is globally diversified passive income and portfolio growth. How do we do that? Well, we break it down by countries, currencies, assets, partners, and time. And it's all about passive income. And what do we do? Well, we focus on what is your long-term goal. We then break it down into midterm goals, your monthly aspirations, and then finally it's your daily activities, your tasks, and your activities. Your action steps for yesterday. Again, you had 2 options here. One was just to mentally say, right, I want to join the mastermind. I want, Scott and the team and the family office and the team to hold my hand and do this for me and do this with me. If you do that, then you don't have any homework, because we'll do it for you, with you. But if you don't join the mastermind, then your homework is research and identify at least 3 different investment strategies: passive investing, active investing, and value investing. Create a hypothetical diversified investment portfolio with different asset classes and allocating percentages to asset classes. So that's your wealth plan. Consider the diversification mastermind and share one key takeaway in the Wealth University community group. Okay. And then on the gold, research the different asset classes and their historical performance, and research and compare the different investment vehicles. I just want to give you an example of what I mean by, if you've joined the mastermind, you wouldn't have to worry about actually doing all of this, because I'll just give you an example of what I'm talking about. So every single month, Anthony comes in and from our family office, and he takes us through a session. So he takes us through the markets, what's happening in the markets. He then takes us through all the different asset classes. Every single month, we go through all the different asset classes. What is happening? Are they going up? Are they going down? What does America first mean? What does Trump? What does tariffs? What does interest rates mean? What do inflation rates mean? And then he looks at some of the main stories from the month and what do we need to know about. So what's the growth in some of the areas? What's happening with US unemployment, because that directly impacts the inflation numbers and ultimately the interest rates. What's going on with the trade war and the impact of the trade war, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm just giving you an example of, again, you can do it yourself if you want to, or if you join the mastermind, then you're going to be partnering, where's it gone now? You're going to be partnering with the family office, and they will, literally be providing you with this information. I've just shown you the last 10 years historical information so that you can make sure you're making the right decisions. No slides coming through. Sorry, what do you mean? Alistair, can you just confirm? Did you guys not see the slides from the Calio presentation? Did anyone else see the slides? Okay, Rochelle saw them. Okay, people did see them. Okay, cool. I thought I was going a bit mad there. Alistair, you need to click on, I don't know, there's a button up the top and you need to click on the screen for them. Okay, something that Shane asked me just to mention is that you've always got the option to book a discovery call. I know a number of you have connected with the team, and the whole idea is if you're interested in diversified passive income and earning it as soon as possible, then the recommendation is to sit with one of the team members and they can help you in terms of the next direction. If you want to join the mastermind, then the easiest thing to do is when you sit down with them on the call, just tell them, I'm interested in the mastermind. I'd like to have a conversation around that. You don't need to book 2 different calls just to save your own time. So in terms of, the discovery call and or, the book a call for the mastermind, if you have already booked a discovery call, then just tell them, I'm interested in the mastermind, and then we can point you in the right direction. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. So yesterday, I took you through something that I sort of really spent some time looking into in 2024. And for me, the 3 things that stop people from getting results over the last 20 years, when we've looked at the 3 biggest excuses people have that stops them getting results. The first one is I don't have the money. The second is I don't have the knowledge. And the third is I don't have the time. And my philosophy is we get to the end of the year, and I know we're only in February now, but I mean, I don't know about anyone else, but it's bloody scary to think that we're at the end of February and we're going to be at the end of the year. And this picture for me represents frustration, anxiety, because another year has gone by and I haven't achieved my results. I haven't achieved diversified passive income. And so, my question to you, and I'm being very direct and very thorough on purpose, is are you using these excuses? I don't have the money, I don't have the knowledge, I don't have the time, to stop you getting what you want. And if you are going to live by Einstein's theory of doing the same thing and expecting different results, my question is this year, what are you doing differently? Because I fundamentally believe that you have to actually do something different. I'll let you in on a little secret. I had my weekly psychology session yesterday, and I've got no harm in saying that. I've been seeing psychologists since I was 22, because I always believe in getting better. You can only ever improve. And so my lady literally said to me yesterday, like, what are you going to do differently? And it really sparked something in me, because I need to, this one particular challenge I've got, what am I going to do differently? And so the question is, what are you going to do differently to get what you want? To get the knowledge you want through partnerships and to get the time that you want. What are you going to do? What are you going to do differently? Who are you going to partner with? What do you need to change from a mental perspective? What do you need to say, no more? I'm not going to use the excuse of I don't have money. I'm not going to use the excuse of I don't have knowledge. I'm not going to use the excuse of I don't have time. I meet wealthy people all the time that are, wealthy but have no time, and they say, well, I can't join the mastermind. I want to protect my wealth. I want a plan B. I want peace of mind. I want to diversify overseas, but I don't have the time to do it. I'm focusing on my business or my job. And I'm like, okay, did you do it last year? No. Did you do it the year before that? No. Did you do it the year before that? No. Have you done it in the last decade? No. So what's going to change? You need to invest the time. And even if it's just 3 hours a month, literally 3 hours a month. But if you do that 10 years from now, it'll be very different. And that's why I love this picture of what represents for me freedom and fun and family and, at some level, generational wealth as well. So yeah, these are the options. And I shared with you on both Tuesday and Wednesday how you can join the Passive Income Challenge. You can do it yourself. So again, there's 3 types of people. There's the do it themselves, there's the do it in a group, and there's the done for you. So if you want to do it yourself, it's free. You can literally go and sign up for it. You can watch the recordings and you can do the Passive Income Challenge yourself. If you want to join the Wealth Hackers, you can literally have Coach Alex, and he will literally be there and hold you accountable in terms of the process. And I really appreciate just some of the comments that were put up just yesterday. Frankie and William put them up, and they said the coaching and hand-holding or receiving is actually priceless. Passive Income Challenge changed my life and has put me on a wealthy mindset. And I did the 30-day challenge. I started investing and it's worth it. So I put these up to acknowledge Alex, because what he's doing is he's not just giving you the theory, but he's holding your hand. He creates a WhatsApp group. He creates an accountability. And for me, that's so important, and, in terms of the overall thing. So that's the benefit of what you get with the Wealth Hackers. And if you look here, and it literally starts next week, you can go into it and you can go down to the Wealth Hackers here. You can go down to the calendar. And if we go through to March, you can see here that Alex will be running the accountability sessions literally next month. So if you want to have passive income by the end of March, it's completely doable. So not only will you have the theoretical training, but you'll have a coach to help you through the process. And that's what you get by being part of the Wealth Hackers. And it's interesting because when people say to me, well, Scott, it's all about community. It is. We built the entire company based on community. This was me in 2004 in London, teaching people how to buy London and South African property. That's actually Chaz Everett at one of my events on the river in Putney. This is Baldwin, the biggest residential developer now listed in South Africa. That's Andy McPherson there and Ian Fife. He was the managing director of Smith Tabata Buchanan Boys, the biggest conveyancing company in the country. Ian Fife was the editor of the Financial Mail. This was Dr. Hannes Dreyer presenting at one of my events in London. Another event in London. You get the point. Launching the UK, launching Australia. Then we started doing the buyers trips. We've done buyers trips all over the place. Many, many different buyers trips. We've done wealth weekends, where people have come away and joined us for a wealth weekend. I did invite the VIP yesterday, people to join us at the wealth weekend, which actually we got our next wealth weekend next weekend in terms of the process. These are just pictures from the one that we did in Cape Town last year and the one that we did up in Johannesburg in the Cradle of Humankind at the end of August in terms of that process. So that's what Wealth Hackers is all about. And Corin, I just want to say, may I please agree on Alex, mind-blowing. I will climb Kilimanjaro with him. Thank you for the kind words on Alex. He loves being patted on the back. So I'll definitely I'm going to screenshot that and give that to Alex because everyone needs good motivation. So thank you, Corin, for that. So what is the Wealth Hackers all about? Well, ultimately, it's the Netflix for wealth. You get Wealth Going Global, which is the right information. It's over $8,000 worth of value. And, many hundreds of people have paid $497. Then on the other side of the fence, you've got Asset Class Mastery. It's over, just short of $15,000 worth of value. A couple of hundred people have paid over just short of $2,000. If you put the two together, just the two together, for what people have actually paid, it's about $2,500 in terms of value that you get within the Wealth Hackers. You also get You get the Clem Santa. Oh, what the hell's happened to that slide? Sorry about that. Not quite sure what's happened to our slide there. You get the 6 pillars to wealth, the updated one. So you saw the one from a year ago yesterday, but you get the updated one because we did one with Anthony in November last year. You get the Enneagram and wealth. You get how to teach your children money. And then for those of you that take the fast action bonus, so this is only for people that take the annual subscription and that sign up this week, you get the generational wealth. So you get the module on generational wealth from David Lipschitz. You get the effective tax structuring and estate duties. Everyone always asks us about tax. And then you get the entire wealth weekend from August, which has the 6 mega trends, the Enneagram and wealth going deep, and generational wealth going deep in terms of that overall process. And then you get access to the community. Shane, we just make a note that that slide needs to be repaired. I don't know what the hell's happened to it. But anyway, it's $60,000 in total worth of value. Now, we believe a lot in this sentiment from Zig Ziglar. You can have anything you want in life if you help enough other people get what they want. You might say to me, Scott, why do you stand on stage for 5 days and share with people what is passive income, how to invest around the world, how to get the right information, how to get the right partners? It's because of this. You've seen for 20 years, I've been standing on stage teaching people. And my philosophy is the more I teach people, the more I help others get passive income, the more I will be able to build passive income myself. So that's the philosophy upon which we've built the company. It's about adding value in terms of that process. And because of that, we've made the Wealth Hackers a no-brainer. So it's $356 a year. You get over $60,000 worth of value. But I think one of the things that's fundamentally shifted for us is that I thought that for people, what they wanted was all the courses. So we went in, and if you go here to the Wealth Hackers, you've got all the different courses are here, and kind of people can go in, they can do all the different courses. Okay. What we've learned, and I told you already, and again, the one thing that I love about Alex and Shane and what we do is we put our money where our mouth is. We've just invested $12,000 working with a consulting company out of America that specializes in how to use school. And they basically said the trend that's most important out there is that you've got the online learnings, but what people actually want to be able to get results is they want the live sessions. So if you look here, we've now put in every single week, you can turn up and you've got the accountability session on a Wednesday. And then on the Friday, you've got me doing strategy. So that's strategy around wealth, etc. And then every 2 weeks, you can come in and talk about deals. So the beauty is that you've got the ability to come in and to deal with the team and to deal with us live in a Zoom environment and to be able to do it. So that's the advantage of being part of a community. And you literally get a 20% discount for those that join as part of the annual subscription. And it's $356 a year. And what's interesting to me is that there's a new theme that Shane has brought out, and it's a new advancement that's come out in the platform. But you can actually try it for free for 7 days. So, for me personally, I cannot understand why anyone would come here for 5 days of their lives, like give up 5 days of their lives and not join the Wealth Hackers. Like there's no downside. It's free for 7 days. So you literally can test it out. You can go and see what it's all about in terms of that process. So I encourage all of you, and I do remind you, $356 is not going to change my life. It won't change Alex's life. It won't change Shane's life. But we do fundamentally believe it can change your life. You'll be surprised how many people have done Wealth Going Global, just Wealth Going Global, and the massive impact that had on their life. And I mean, you can literally go and read all about it. I mean, if you go to Trustpilot or whatever, you can go and watch videos. You can go see the impact it's had on other people's lives. So go and test drive it. The reason we give it away for 7 days for free is we know the value. We also know the value of the ongoing coaching and the accountability, and that's the real value of joining the community and actually paying for it in terms of that process. So, and then finally, you've got the Private Wealth Global, which is the mastermind. That's all about getting results safely and simply, and that's an enhanced partnership between our family office and ourselves. And I remind you that there are 9 steps to creating generational wealth, and we need to take you through the 9 steps. So it's setup, it's planning, and it's results in terms of that process. Aneta, yes, it is 356 annually in terms of that process. So, and you also get grandfathered in. So the price keeps going up. Every time we add more value, the price goes up. But whatever you sign up at is what it stays at for the rest of your life. Obviously, you can cancel anytime if you want. Okay. As part of the mastermind and as part of Private Wealth Global, you get access to the exclusive learning community. So if you go here, you've actually got everything all in one place. You've got all the 9 steps. You've got everything, all the recordings. You can go back. I mean, I enjoyed this when I enjoyed Roger Hamilton. Do you know you can go back and watch every recording of the mastermind right back to 2022? So, I mean, if you're interested, you've got absolutely everything all in one place. I'm not saying you should, but you can. And then you've got all of the 9 steps here. So everything's here. It just takes you through a logical, sequential solution to help you get results. And you've got access to our private deals for the VIP members yesterday. Just if you're a VIP member, did you enjoy the WhatsApps I shared with you yesterday? So Garth Wellman just yesterday was sending me some deals, some new deals that are coming up. We're going to launch them next weekend at the Wealth Weekend. And I probably shouldn't have, but I did. I shared with the VIPs some of the deals that are coming up. So I can see people are putting some comments in there. Yes, it was amazing. I hope you don't get into trouble. I was blown away. So yeah, it's just you'll be amazed what's happening at the you know what the top 1% are being given. So brilliant session, was amazing, etc. Okay, and just to remind you, if you do join the mastermind, you automatically subscribe for the Wealth Hackers. You get the immigration, you get access to the Wealth Weekend. You also get access to the buyers trips in terms of it. So perfect. Thanks for all the nice comments around the VIP. And again, if you've already booked a discovery call, just tell them that you're interested in the mastermind. If you haven't booked a discovery call and you want to join the mastermind, just go to this link, diversificationmastermind.com. And the reason we got guaranteed results there is that we can't guarantee results if you don't put in the work. But if we agree a plan and you're working the plan, we will work with you until you've got your result. That's where we put our money and our time in to help you get results. And I always joke with people, whether it's the carrot or the stick, our philosophy is to help you get results. And so that's really, really important. Because if you're a results person, like I'm hyper-focused on results. If you are a results person, then this is what we've built. And I know yesterday a couple of people asked me, so Shane and I have put this all on one page for you. But in simple terms, if you're an airplane and you're flying from Sydney to London, just imagine that the passive income challenge is like our economy class. It's the way to test the airplane. So you can basically get started for free with the passive income challenge. You've then got Wealth Going Global, which is the course on how to get the right information. You've got Asset Mastery, which is the course, the home study course on how to find the right partners. And then you've got the Mastermind, which is the partnership that we've got with the family office. So that's how the pyramid works. We then build Wealth Hackers to allow people to climb up the ladder. And that's it. And do me a favor, for those of you that, you said there's a bunch of offerings and I'm not quite sure how it all works. Does it help you when it's on one page like this? To be able to. Anita, yes, that would be the 356 would be the only fee you would pay for the year. Yeah. Okay. So people are saying that gives clarity, etc. Okay. Cool. Okay. Well done to Shane. Shane's the legend at this stuff. So, again, if you want to basically screenshot that. Kubus, I am even more sad that you're missing next week, dude. It would have been lovely to spend time with you. Lovely to have you here, but would have loved to have spent time with you next week. So let's rock and roll into today. And again, I'm not giving you any financial advice today. It's really important that you hear that from me. I'm going to share with you my mistakes. I'm going to share with you my lessons. And I'm going to help you hopefully not make the same mistakes I've made, but I'm not giving you financial advice in terms of that process. I remind you that today is all about risk management, and it's how do we actually diversify across partners. So if you look down at number 4, it's how do we diversify across partners in terms of that process. And I do remind you that in Wealth Going Global, Module 4 is actually all about partners. So again, today I'm going to kind of give you the substance at the tip of the iceberg. But if you want to go deeper, then Wealth Going Global, we actually go into partners, the power of partnership, investing globally, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The mission here is to help investors be confident in their ability to choose the right partners. And this is all about partners and due diligence. So we've actually got white papers on how to select the partners and what we do and all of that. So we're going to share this with you as a gift, our white papers on partners and how to find the right partners and how to select them, et cetera, in terms of that process. But I got a question for you. I've lost somewhere between 10 and $20 million in investments. I don't know the exact number. And that's not just my own money. It's where I've invested alongside other partners and we've lost money. And over the years, I learned a principle by Ray Dalio where when you make a mistake, you create a rule so that you don't keep making the same rule. So who would like to learn my 4 golden rules around partners and how to avoid the mistakes that I've had in terms of losing the money? Just by the way, I might save you like 28 years or certainly 20 plus years of learning, and maybe a couple of $1 million, if not a couple of $100,000 in the process. So this is probably one of the most important lessons that I can give you in terms of that process. And I just wanted to kind of share this with you. And I'm going to provide stories around this as well. So the first lesson is that you want to partner with people that have a 10-year plus track record. So the reason being is that market cycles go in 7 to 10 year cycles. And so if you take the 2000s, I mean, you could be anywhere in the 2000s. You could be in America, you could be in Australia, you could be in England, you could be in South Africa, it doesn't matter. The market grew tremendously. I know because I bought my first house in 1999. I bought my first London property in 2002. I thought I was an absolute hero. Like no matter what I did, worked. Okay. And then the crash happened in 2008, 2009, and you realized you weren't so clever and that a number of your investments didn't work. And so the reason you want a partner that's got a 10-year track record is you want to be able to see how their track record behaved when the market went down. Now, I learned two beautiful sayings of this very, very wealthy gentleman that I met in Australia. And he said, even a turkey can fly in a hurricane. Let me say that again. Even a turkey can fly in a hurricane. So in my 20s, in the 2000s, I might have been a turkey because any of us could have flown. I mean, you had to be an idiot not to make money. The market was flying. Okay. But the problem is the moment that it stops, then you realize you're dealing with a turkey. And the second saying I like, which I've heard before, is that when the tide goes out, you see who's got their pants down. And both of these sayings are very important from people that have been around for decades, because it's really important to know that the partners you're dealing with can ride the ups and the downs. Because if you're going to invest, things are going to go wrong. Let me say that again. Things are going to go wrong. I guarantee it. If you've ever been an investor and if you've ever invested in anything, you will know that there's no like plain sailing where everything works all the time. It just doesn't work like that. And as I have said to the VIPs already, if I stood here and said that I'd never made a mistake in 28 years, I'd either be lying, cheating, or stealing. Because no one has ever not made a mistake in 28 years. So the question is that I'm always looking for when I sit with someone and I say, right, have you done this for 10 plus years? Is I'm not interested in how well you did when the market was rising. I'm interested in what you did in the last 2 years when interest rates went up. How did you behave? And I have a fundamental belief system that your character is determined not by how you behave when it's working, but how you behave when it's not working. Let me say that again. I have a fundamental belief system that your character is determined by how you behave, not when it's working, but how you behave when it's not working. And this is what I'm trying to look for. How did you behave when it was not working? Number two, specific market knowledge. So you often meet people that are jack of all trades. They're doing data centers, they're doing retail stores, they're doing cryptocurrency, they're doing whatever. They're doing a whole bunch of things. I don't work with those people. From my experience, and I'm sure many of you have read the book, the Rule of 10,000 Hours, where it takes 10 years plus to be a master at something. I want to work with people that have spent 10, 20 years specializing in a specific sector, in a specific region, in a specific asset class, because those are going to be the best partners. The jack of all trades, they're useless. Like they know a little bit about everything. They're not worth going to. So for me, it's about a specific market knowledge. If I'm dealing with someone that's doing industrial logistics, I want to deal with someone that's done industrial logistics for 20 years plus. If I'm dealing with someone that's done structured notes, I just want to know that that's what they do. That's all they do, structured notes. If I'm dealing with someone that does German mixed-use property, I want to know that that's what they've done for 10, 20 years plus. Because then you know that you're dealing with the partners that can not only ride the ups and downs because they've been through it, but also have the specific knowledge to know how to choose a really good deal, how to sweat a really good asset, which basically means how to get the best results out of the asset because they've got that market experience. Number three, probably one of the most important ones, they put their own money into the deal on the same terms. So one of the things that there's a saying in Australia, how do you become a millionaire in Australia? And just by the way, I'd love to know if anyone's heard this before. So how do you become a millionaire in Australia? You arrive from Zimbabwe or South Africa with $5 million. Let me say that again. How do you become a millionaire in Australia? You arrive from South Africa or Zimbabwe with $5 million. And the logic is that people turn up and they put their money into deals, and the Aussies are famous for this. By the way, the Americans and the English are pretty good at this as well. And they go, cool, give me all your money. We'll help you do a deal. And if the deal works, we'll have 50% of the upside. But if it doesn't work, you've got 100% of the downside. It doesn't work. You've got to be aligned. Our three core values in our business are trust, transparency, and alignment. And one of the things that I say this, and I say these things because hopefully they help you to learn. Because I learned alignment of an old business partner of mine. You know, if you get a husband and wife and they get together, and the one is marrying for love and the one is marrying for money, do you think they're going to work over time? Yes or no? Just type in there for me, yes or no. Now, any of you like me that have been married, you'll know that the answer is no. What about if you get two business partners and the one is joining because they want to build a lifestyle and business and they want to be able to go surfing every day, and the other one's joining because they want to change the world and build $1 billion business? Like, do you think they're going to be compatible and it's going to work, long term? I've got one that's interesting for you. You go along and you meet your financial planner and you want to invest for the long term. You want to protect your wealth. You want to get the best results you possibly can. And you ultimately want to be set up for in your retirement. And they get paid based on the commissions of the product they sell you up front. Are you aligned? Yes or no? Interesting, but everyone does it. So back to the point of number three, if you're going into a deal, we always try and make sure that the partner is putting money into the deal on the same terms as us, because that means we aligned long term. And I'm going to share some real life examples of this, where it hasn't worked and where it has worked. And just by the way, you'll see there in brackets on the same terms. That was something I learned the hard way, because we did a deal in Austin, Texas, in America, and we put $5 million into a deal. And I thought that the developer, the partner on the ground, had put money in. I mean, he put in $500,000, and which is fine for us. That's a material amount of money. But when the shit hit the fan, we found out that his money was on different terms to our money, and so he got paid first. So that's why now it's brackets. Like, this is the hard lessons you learn in life. I didn't even know there were different tiers or whatever you want to call it. I just thought we all put our own money in. Anyway, so that's what you learn in life. And then lastly, 80% of the equity is coming from local investors. So again, I'm going to share a lot of stories today with you, but most of the times that I've lost money, it's because you've got a bunch of international investors that go over and are doing a deal in England or doing a deal in Australia or doing a deal in America, and there's no local investors. And if you don't have certainly 50% more, but ideally 80% local investors, firstly, the regulator doesn't care. So if something goes wrong and the partner on the ground does something wrong, the regulator doesn't care. The regulators are there to protect local citizens. So if something goes wrong, they don't care. Secondly, it's bloody hard to sue people long distance and coordinate and all that. So often, you know, the partner on the ground just gets away with it. But if you've got local people, and particularly if you've got local substantial partners, then they'll make sure that the deal gets sorted. So type in the chat box for me if this makes sense to you. The 4 golden rules of partners. I would strongly recommend that you screenshot that, because if you follow those rules, you can save yourself decades of time and millions of dollars. Because it took me decades, over, you know, basically close to 3 decades, and millions of dollars to figure these 4 rules out. Okay, so what is our investment process? What do we do? So again, different from what most people think. So most people think, I get the calls all the time. Hey, Scott, I've got a deal in London. Do you want to invest? I'm like, no. Because we don't start with the deal. We start with the partner. So if you look here, we go out and we do a due diligence on who the partner is. Only once we've done a due diligence on who the partner is there a due diligence on the deal. Once there's a due diligence on the deal, then we put the deal live on the platform. We raise the money. We close the deal. We go through the structuring. We basically implement the investments. We get the quarterly distributions. We track the deal. When the deal finally exits, we exit the deal. We unlock the capital gains. You know, you return the capital, and then you've got your funds back for further investment. That's like an overall process. Now, myth number 8, and I always enjoy these myths. You know, people say to me, I can do it all myself. And I'm like, really? So you've got experience in America. There's 300 MSAs in America, metropolitan statistical areas. So you've got experience in all 300 cities. You've got experience in all the different asset classes. You know about all the different banks. There's 8,000 banks in America. And now you know all of that in England as well, and you know all of that in Europe, and you know all of that in Australia. Like, it's illogical. It's not possible. And you're going to learn that from Selwyn just now, who's the gentleman from Cambridge who's going to teach you. So where this kind of evolved from for me was, you know, from Clem Sunter, the very famous Clem Sunter. If you don't know who he is, by the way, I have a live presentation with him next Tuesday. I would strongly recommend, maybe Shane, if you can just chuck in there the link for Ask Clem Sunter, because people, you should really come and join us on Tuesday. But in simple terms, he talks about the global scenarios. He's one of the top 5 scenario planners in the world, and he talks about the global scenarios. He talks about the global probabilities, and he also talks about the global flags. And what I did was I went away after understanding everything that he said, and I said, well, why don't we build a model so that we can make better decisions? And based on that is why the book came out. Now, when the book launched in 2013, this was only for residential property. And then we evolved it into commercial property as well, which is our GID system. So it's our global investment due diligence system, which is a 10-layered system. And we actually got 2 documents. We got GIDS 1.0, which is about residential property and how to make the right decisions for residential. And then we got GIDS 2.0, which is all about commercial property. We've also got the checklist on it's about, I can't remember exactly, it's about 126 lines that we go through to try and make sure that the due diligence is done right. Now, for those of you that are joining the Wealth Hackers, if you go into the Wealth Hackers, and if you go to the classroom, and if you go to Wealth Going Global, and you literally go down to partners, you'll see here that those cheat sheets are in here. So you've got the full breakdown, plus you've got our full due diligence system. So I've never given this away. It's our internal IP. but we actually do give it away as part of the Wealth Going Global. So again, you can either create your own due diligence systems or you can learn and copy ours. One of the things that is used out there in the world is how to select and designate sponsors. So this isn't our system, this is a worldwide system. So if they are tenured, it means that they've got over 50 years worth of management experience. The company's been around for 15 years plus, and the assets under management are more than $1 billion. You can see here if it's established, developed, and then emerging. So emerging is 20 years plus. The company, so the partners have been doing this for 20 years plus, but the company is less than 3 years, and they got less than 200 million. So you can kind of see it as a table. Now, to give you an example of a couple that we've worked with, so this is Feldman Equities. They've got over $100 million invested just with their family. They've got over 100 years worth of experience. They've survived 7 recessions, and they manage over $3 billion. And we did a deal with them. Literally, this bank tower, we closed it in December 2020. So when everyone was like, COVID's terrible, office is terrible, we did a deal with them. How's this for results? So the total return is 16.73%, and the cash on cash return is 9.63%. And you can see that this sponsor is tenured. Now, I just want to give you a quick insight into something. If I go to deals and I go to, I think I'm getting this right. Yep, Feldman. So just give me 2 seconds. I have to log in here properly. So this is this building. So we just got paid in Jan now. So we get paid sort of every quarter. So you can see Jan, October, July, April, Jan, October, June, July. And you can see right back to when we bought the building. I told you we bought it in December 2020. We've literally been paid every quarter. We get sort of $6,300. And I always joke with people, you know, for those of you who like buying houses, this is so boring. Like, because you go and buy a building like this. I must admit, I never ever for the life of me thought that I would own a building like this, or certainly a piece of a building like this. And then every quarter, we just get the distributions in. I don't have to do management. I don't have to do maintenance. I don't have to look after tenants. And can you see on the Monopoly board how this is the red hotels? No hassle, much safer, much better returns, no hassle. Mom and pop investing, lots of hassle, low returns. Are you starting to have the mindset shift? This company, MAG, so they've got 300 million assets under management, 43 properties. They've got a historical average of 18.8% IRR and a cash on cash of about 9%. Let's go look at their building. So we did this building with them, which was so it's a 12% IRR and an 8.3% cash. It was an industrial logistics, so they're also tenured. Again, I never thought I'd be buying and owning big warehouses. This was another one we did with them, which was a debt deal. So this was a 10% return. Another big industrial deal that we did with them. And let's just go back and look at the results. So I think MAG is the first one. Yep, here it comes. Let me just open these all up. Sorry, I just got to log into them, each one of them. So if you go here, I mean, I don't know how many of you wanted to get involved in industrial. Certainly since COVID, it's a great thing. So it's quite interesting here. You can see the 2 buildings I just showed you. So that is, what is that? February, January, December, November, October, September, August, July. I think you get the point. And so every kind of month we get paid about $4,000. And again, it's so boring. Because you invest with a partner and they do the work and you get paid your return. And this is the institutional mindset. of how to do it in terms of what is possible in terms of this process. So another tenured partner. And then another tenured partner is structured notes. So this was where we did it with BNP Paribas, one of the biggest banks in the world, and Cashbox and IDAD. I mean, they've done over 1,000 structured notes. So another example of I don't have the dashboard to be able to go and show you in terms of the results there. And then I wanted to give you an example of an emerging partner. And this company here, DWG, the guy, and it's one of the interviews that I've got for you, for a guy called Judd Dunning. He's been doing this for 20 years plus. He used to be a broker within a financial institution, and he facilitated over $1 billion worth of investments. And then in the last 3 years, he actually went on his own. So we've done over 3 deals with him already, and all of them pay on time, and they're all about an 8% cash on cash. And again, another industrial logistics building that we invested in. And so, myth number 9 was this building's quite interesting, because actually it was owned by a Canadian investor, and they got themselves into some trouble, and they needed to sell the building. And he found out about it through his networks, because he's been in the banking environment for 20 years plus. And so he actually bought the deal off market, like no one knew about it. And when we bought the deal, we bought it for $10 million, and it was valued the same day by the bank for $11 million. So there was $1 million in value the day we bought the building. And so for me, myth number 9 is that people think that they'll be able to go over there and do deals. Like I told you already, you could go over with $100 million, and I don't think you would compete with Judd. I honestly don't. Like, Judd's going to find out about deals that you don't even know about. And so, in my opinion, we have no option but to partner. The question is just who to partner with, if that makes sense. So, these are all the things that you need to do if you do it on your own: country due diligence, sponsor due diligence, brokers, lawyers, tax, deal tracking, investor onboarding, management, SPVs, reporting, banks, client services, secure data storage, deal tracking, etc., etc. Or you can use a platform like ours, where there's 4 simple steps: sign up for free, set up your account, browse and invest, and earn an income. What's really important is that people say to me, well, how does it actually work? Well, you've got your bank account over here. You set up a digital wallet. So we use Lemonway. They're the biggest digital wallet provider in Europe. Each of you gets your own wallet. So it's your own money. You're in control of your own money. Then it goes on our platform. Let's call it Wealth Migrate. Then we've basically got the investment opportunity. Like right now, we got one in Manhattan. Then we got aggregation. So what that means is that you and I and everyone else invest together. We aggregate our money together. Then we go through a tax-efficient vehicle, and then we own the property. When the property pays out its distributions, it goes into a deal wallet, and from the deal wallet, it goes into the investor wallets. And then from the investor wallets, you can do whatever you want with your money. You can put it back into your personal bank account. So in simple terms, that's how it works. If there's any questions around this, when we go into the VIP room, I'll answer this in more detail, because some people ask, etc. But if you want to take a screenshot, that's how it works on one page in terms of the process. Now, the next part that I want to share with you is very important, because this is about the mistakes that I've made and the lessons that I've learned. So this is probably some of the most valuable content that I'm going to share with you over the 5 days. So what I found really interesting is that there's 2 different mindsets. There's the old school mindset, and there's the new age mindset. So if we're buying a building, you've got the old school mindset, which is about control, and you've got the new age mindset, which is about diversification and partnership. So there's your building, and in the old school way of doing it, you borrow from the bank sort of 60%, you get private equity for about 30%, you've then got equity for about 10%. And the old school way of doing it is, because they want control, they want to put in at least 95% of the money. They want to be able to have all the control. And when you look like that, so they got all the control, they got all the equity, they own 95% of the building. On the other side of the fence, you'll see that the new age way, it's the same numbers. The bank, 60%, private equity, 30%. When it comes to the equity, The investors only want to put in, like, say, 10%. So when you look at it from a representation perspective, on the left-hand side, if you want to take risk, they've got 95% of the ownership and, you know, most of the control, but they got more risk. Whereas on the right-hand side, they've got not nearly as much control, but they've got a lot less risk. On the left-hand side, they've got concentration. Their money's all in one place. They've got all the control, but if something goes wrong, they have to fix it. On the right-hand side, they've got diversification. So rather than putting $5 million into one deal, they might put $500,000 into 10 deals. So they've got diversification. They've got less control. They have to rely on their partners because they've got local investors. On the left-hand side, it's all about being active. Like, you've got to be active. You've got to manage the building. If something goes wrong, get on an airplane, fly over there, try to fix it. On the right-hand side, it's being an armchair. I mean, I've just shown you some examples of the office building and the industrial building. Like, I'm an armchair investor. On the left-hand side, it's all about scarcity. And on the right-hand side, it's all about abundance. And ladies and gentlemen, that page that Shane helped me build sums up everything that I've learned in the last 20 years. Because from my experience, if you're wanting to invest internationally and if you're wanting to diversify, and if you try to do everything the old school way, that's how you lose money. The only way to do it is through partnership and the new age way of doing it. And it's about finding the right partners on the ground. It's about diversifying with them. And it is a lot safer than people think in terms of that process. So let me explain to you some real life stories here to show you how I learned this lesson. So in 2016, my investment committee at the time came to us and they said, oh, we found a great deal in Australia. We're going to buy a piece of land. We're going to build this development. We're going to sell, I think there were about 50 odd units. It's already got pre-sales. They've sold 12 of the units in Hong Kong, and we're going to get 28%. We're going to put our money in, and a year and a half later, we're going to get our money out, and we're going to make 28%. Sounds amazing. The problem is that the Chinese government changed the rules, so all the investors couldn't invest. The Australian banks then changed the rules. They wouldn't lend to foreigners. Because of that, the Australian construction company pulled our finance. Like, the developer already had his finance. They pulled the finance. The developer, who had no skin in the game, no money in the game, eventually just ran away. And 8 years later, we're left with a swimming pool. We've got a $5 million swimming pool in Brisbane. And I joke about it, and it's not funny because I'm one of the investors. So just for the record, myself and our company has $400,000 invested here. I have $400,000 in that swimming pool. Okay, now the problem is that if you think about it, it's all based on that old school mindset. So the investment committee out of Pretoria, South Africa, were like, we must control it all. We must put in all the money. We must control the opportunity. Okay, and then when the shit hit the fan, the developer ran away, the investment committee ran away, and me and 82 investors are stuck with a big bloody swimming pool. It makes no sense. If we had Australian investors, this would have been solved years ago. Okay? I'm just giving you an example of why this doesn't work. And just for the record, actually, no, I'll tell you that just now. Another example was this medical opportunity. So we started doing medical in 2014, and the mindset again from the investment committee out of Pretoria was, it's very old school South African, must control everything. Was we'll control the whole building. And I mean, these buildings were amazing. They looked amazing and everything. And then COVID happened, and the partner on the ground actually did fraud. So what happened was he was collecting the rent, but he wasn't paying the banks. And so the banks actually defaulted on the loan and repossessed the property. Now, the challenge is that you've got a bunch of foreign investors. Yeah, they got all the control, whippy twang, because now they're fighting with the banks and they're trying to get the property back and everything in between. And 100% this represents this old school mindset where you got all the control. I mean, I know, I consider him a friend. I saw him in America in October. He's on the ground. He's trying to fight. He's trying to solve this. He had to leave South Africa. He had to immigrate to America to try and solve this problem. Okay. That is what happens when you go old school and you go control. And we fundamentally split. So we had 3 co-founders, and me and the other co-founder could not agree on this because I was like, old school does not work. You have to go new age. And we didn't agree, and we actually split in 2018. And Wealth Migrate only goes under the principle of new age, and the other company, Allvest, has the principle of control. So they want to own the whole building. Now, let me give you an example where it doesn't always work new age, but how that ends up. So this company, Feldman Equities, we did another deal with them. We invested in this office park. I must admit, for all my years, I never ever thought that I would have the opportunity to invest in a building like this. I mean, let's just go to the platform. I'll log in quickly and I'll show you, because I'm going to teach you 2 important lessons here. So let's just go down to those deals. Where are they now? So they were up. So you got Pinnacle Corporate Park. So this was the deal that we did. And what's interesting here, you can see on the risk thing, so this big where it becomes important to understand this was a value add. And the reason being they had a 2-year fix on the mortgage. And the logic was the building was about 80% leased at the time, and they were going to lease it up. Now, the company, Feldman, actually did a great job. They were ahead of target. Like they leased more of the building than they were expecting to. But then, as you know, in the last 18 months, interest rates went through the roof, and they didn't expect that. And so this actually, they needed to do a capital call. So this is a $60 million deal, to be exact, okay, of which $20 million in equity was put into the deal. We only put in about $500,000. So this is a great example of how you put a small amount with a big partner. They needed to do a capital call to protect the investment. They were raising $7 million. They personally put in $5 million. So the family put in $5 million. And we had to put in $30,000 to put in perspective. But the assets retained. There's been a short term. We haven't got our dividends for a while they just recover. But we own the building. You know, the assets owned. There's no drama, etc. And that's the difference for me between working with trying to control it and do it all yourself, and working with a big institutional partner with big institutional local investors. They're always going to find a way to fix the problem. And another example, we did a deal in December 2023 in New York. So it's a deal in Manhattan. I never thought that I'd invest in Manhattan. And it was a $14 million deal. They were raising $8 million. $6 million was coming from the partner. They were raising $8 million. And our family office put in $1.5 million. We put in $500,000. So that's $2 million. And $6 million came from local investors in America. So family offices, institutional capital, etc. Now, do you think if there's a problem, they're going to solve it? They've got over $12 million invested in the deal, and we've only got $500,000. Can you see how different that is to that big bloody hole in the ground in Australia? And that's what New Age and diversification and partnership is all about. And it's at this point that if you don't agree with New Age, like if you're all about control, then you're in the wrong place. Like, because we only abide by and do deals on the principle of New Age diversification and partnership. It's how we operate. So this is that fundamental alignment where if you like what we do, then stick with us. But if you want to control everything, then you're in the wrong place in terms of that process. The last 10 minutes, does that make sense to you? Because it's really, really important what I just shared with you. It's probably one of the most important lessons I could ever teach you. And again, it cost me tens of millions of dollars to learn these lessons. And we even had to split the company because of a lack of alignment around it. So, excellent. Thanks for all the comments. So the next section is managing risk and compliance. And again, we've got white papers on this around the deal risk categories and the compliance, etc. And what's important here is that I don't have time today to go into all of this, but when you go down here, you've got core plus, you've got value add, you've got opportunistic. So this shows you can see risk, low risk, low return, high return. And there's again, it's not the way we didn't invent this. This is the way the institutional world works. And where you can literally, so core is low risk, but generally lower return. Core plus is a solid asset without that much risk, but generally, it might not be in New York, it might be in Atlanta. Value add is where there's some executional risk, like in that building, this building here, they had to lease up the building. And opportunistic tends to be like a new development or something like that. Now, just as a matter of interest, you go back to the marketplace and we go down to that other office building that we did with Feldman. This one, if you look at it, they fixed their interest rates for 7 years. So this building had no problem when the interest rates went up. And that's why it was core plus, because there was no risk. Okay. Under regulation, we FCA approved. So we're a juristic rep under the FCA in England. It's a defined financial product. There's phase protection. There's European cash custody. We work with Lemonway, which is one of the biggest digital wallet providers. They've got over 12 million wallets. We've got multi-layered compliance. We've got a transactional wallet, and we've got data protection and investor database ring fencing. How do we protect your money? So the first thing is you've got external cash custody. So again, the money is actually sitting in Lemonway. I can't take your money and go on holiday. You've got discretionary portfolio. So there's an external party that's managing the governance. There's designated investor accounts. So each one of you has your own account. It's not sitting in some big trust account where you're hoping that someone, does the right job. Every deal's ring fenced. So you can't rob Peter to pay Paul. So in the case of the Australian deal, it didn't work. But, if you're in a typical fund, I can take money from a deal that's working and pay that and, whatever. But you can't do that. It's ring fenced. Every deal is ring fenced. Designated corporate members. So every deal is set up with corporate members. External custody. So that's why, there's actually a person sitting in England as an external custody of the investments. And then we do try, we could do better, to be honest, but we do try have operational and investor segmentation. Like, as an example, I sit on the investment committee and I am involved operationally, and obviously you've got the investment. So it's not completely separated, but we do try in terms of that process. In terms of this, I've already sort of explained to you of what this means: core plus, value add, and opportunistic. We've got a white paper. You can go and read all about it in terms of that process. In terms of tax and structuring, I'm not going to sit and try and talk about tax and structuring. I'm not an expert in it. I do have a lot of experience because not only have I done it myself, but I've helped thousands of other people do it. But to be honest, my philosophy is two things. One is be careful of the little cheapy islands, the Seychelles, Mauritius, Isle of Man, BVI, etc. They look cheap on the front end. Also be careful of being put in a box. So often a financial planner or one of these finance houses will come along and they'll sell you a box, and then you can only buy products that actually go in that box. And I think it's really important. Like, one of the things I love about our family office is they come along and they do it bespokely for you. So they literally come in and they help you with your family, no matter what your personal circumstances are. And they did a course. So Garth Wellman did a course on effective tax structuring and estate planning. And if you join the Wealth Hackers on the annual subscription, you'll actually get access to that course in terms of that process. And again, would you rather be put in a box? I know I certainly hate being put in a box. Or would you rather have a family office actually sit down and help make sure that your tax and your structuring is done right? And that's what the mastermind members get access to. We've got 3 white papers, which we're going to give you as a gift. The first is the 5 laws of investing through wealth, through real estate. So that's mainly for beginners. We've got the 5 keys to offshore real estate investment success. So that's for people that are intermediate. You might own a number of residential houses and now you're wanting to go internationally. And then we've got the 4 ways to expand your global real estate portfolio through strategic partnerships. But ultimately, it all comes down to having the right information and the right partners. So that's the formula. Can I play a little game with you? We've been sitting here. This is the hard stuff. It's about partners. It's about due diligence. It's about compliance. It's about losing money and how to avoid it. It's the hard stuff. So can we play a little game? Who wants to play a game? Can I play a game with you? Okay. So just imagine that I go along, or you go along, sorry, and you go to a doctor, and I'm your doctor, and your doctor's diagnosed you with a serious medical condition. You basically have to lose 10 to 15 kilos as quickly as possible. Like if you don't, your health depends on it. Now, I hope this never happens. I'm just trying to illustrate a point. However, you have to lose the weight no matter what. Okay? And you're given two options. The first is you can go do a home study course. You can go online, and you can get a workout plan, and you can do a home study course. That's option one. Option two is you can have a coach turn up every single day and train you. Which one do you think is going to help you lose the weight? So I can see William saying number two. They're coming in quickly. Alistair, James, Aneta, Barbara, Namusa, Natalie, Amia, Frankie, Corin, Kathy, Sylvia. I mean, everyone, we all know it's number two. It's so logical. And then the question I have for you, if you're so confident about getting results with a coach, why would you not do the same for your wealth? Something to think about, is it not? And what about if it specifically was about building diversified passive income? Now, for some investors, the super experienced, the sophisticated, the confident, and even those motivated beyond belief, we've got just what the doctor ordered. We've got the right information and the right partners. We've got Wealth Going Global that'll give you the right information, and we've got Asset Mastery that'll give you the right partners. We've proven for decades, literally over 2 decades, and we know what to do. But we honestly believe that there needs to be a more effective option to help people get results. And that's actually where you work with a coach on the wealth system to build your portfolio. The challenge is that one-on-one coaching is expensive. And so how can you do it at a lower cost option? I mean, I charge $1,000 an hour. I can't, and I've had people for more than a decade sit down and say, Scott, please coach me, please coach me, please coach me. I'm like, I can't. I don't have the time. So how can we do it? And how can we make it easy and effective? And the answer is simple. It's using technology. So just in the same way that Uber has changed taxis, Airbnb, hotels, Netflix, the blockbuster industry, we took 20 years worth of experience, all the different coaching programs and masterminds that we've been part of, and listening to all our investors. And we know that the current investment space is broken. And so we fixed it. We built the home study courses. Shane and I and Alex, we built the home study courses. But what we've realized, if you look at the research, is that according to Harvard, you're going to be 400% better off if you have a coach than if you try and do it on your own. 400% better off if you have a coach. And if you remember this little video, I'm going to play it for you again.
No, this is extremely predictable. Tons of research around it. Humans change 5 times faster in groups than they do with a one-on-one coach, consultant, or therapist in that case.
Wow.
So I started looking back at business models and people who had done this effectively over the generations. Masterminds aren't new, folks. They're not new at all. People have been doing this for thousands of years. And when you put a collection of people together who are all committed, all driven, and all so want to make the right changes happen, and you give them a leader to follow who's willing to get in the trenches with them, all of a sudden you start finding real, rapid life or business transformation.
So according to Harvard, you're going to be 4 times better off with a coach And according to research, you're going to be 5 times better off if you're in a mastermind than if you have a coach. So in simple maths, to me, you're going to be 20 times better off, 5 times 4, 20 times better off if you're part of a mastermind than if you try to do it on your own. Interesting, huh? Not my opinion. That's what the research says. And that's why I asked the question, are you ready to get out of your comfort zone? And that's what the mastermind is all about. It's a group of plus minus 100 families, like-minded people from all over the world, England, Spain, Portugal, Italy, Germany, the Netherlands, South Africa, Zambia, Swaziland, Australia, New Zealand. Most incredible group of people, ranging from 39 years old, I think is the youngest, through to the mid-80s. Men and women, different backgrounds. We've got corporate executives, we've got business owners, we've got farmers, we've got plumbers, we've got teachers. It's an incredible group of people. And that's what the mastermind is all about. What we do is we focus on globally diversified passive income and portfolio growth. That's the formula on how we do it as we diversify, and it's all about passive income. And what we do is we set annual targets and we have monthly check-ins to be able to achieve those targets. And that's what Private Wealth Global is all about. It's this enhanced partnership between our family office and ourselves, and it's all about getting results safely and simply. I've told you already today, there's the 9 steps that we take you through. We've got the learning platform, the engagement and the learning platform, and we've got the investment platform in terms of it. So for those of you that are interested, and if you want a coach and if you want someone to hold your hand and you know, just like the doctor analogy, then that's exactly what we built the mastermind for. And just like for Jordan, who came and saw us, and it was all about building diversified passive income simply and safely, diversifying across countries, currencies, and assets, getting effective results, making sure you had the right knowledge, wealth protection, plan B, and peace of mind. Be held accountable. I mean, how many of you want to be held accountable to get results? Have a family office to be able to help manage your affairs. Generational wealth for your family. Have a wealth plan in place, and ultimately to get results. I asked you on Monday if you resonated with Jordan. Hopefully now through partnership, you're starting to realize how this is a possibility for you. I showed you Victoria, and Victoria's in her 50s, aiming to build generational wealth. You know, she was very, very busy, but she needed a streamlined investment strategy. She wanted to feel empowered to make the right decisions for her and her family, and she wanted financial freedom. And if you resonated with Victoria and her needs and wants, hopefully now through partnership, you're starting to see that this becomes a possibility. And so we're going to go into an interview just now with Selwyn. So Selwyn runs the private equity team. He was trained in Cambridge. He's worked for a number of the investment banks around the world. He's got a huge amount of experience, and he's going to share with you how to find the right partners. But before we do, because often people in their minds are like, oh, it sounds too good to be true. I don't have the money. I don't know if I qualify. I wanted to share a video with you about Cynthia. Now, I shared with you yesterday, Cynthia, we said, thank God for this mastermind, the partners it brings us, and the exponential learning curve. Cynthia is a teacher. She's an American who lives in Italy. She got divorced 10 years ago, and she wanted to put food on the table for her 3 children that were going to university. And her story is amazing of how she got a passive income in 30 days. And I want to share this story with you because I think it's really, really important that you can learn from her. And my logic is if Cynthia can do it, you can do it. So listen, take notes, see what she says, listen to her about partnership. And if she can do it, you can do it. Enjoy. So Cynthia, thanks so much for joining us. I deeply appreciate you jumping online. I was hoping for you to be there live next week, but you're off to Paris. So sounds like you've got an exciting trip organized.
More rugby. Can never get enough.
Fantastic. So you've got a confusing accent for everybody. You've got an American accent, as I understand, you know, did a huge amount of business in Hong Kong and now live in Italy. Tell us a little bit about yourself, just so the kind of people know who you are.
Yeah, I'm an American. I graduated from college and spent 10 years in New York City in the advertising profession. And during that time, I kept putting on a backpack and leaving and traveling around a part of the world and putting on a backpack and leaving. And the third time I did that, I backpacked around Asia and ended up in Hong Kong permanently, ironically, to watch the Rugby Sevens. And I rolled into town to watch the Rugby Sevens, and I stayed 10 years. And during that time, I worked in marketing in China. So I continued my profession. And relevant to this conversation, I took my first year's salary almost, because I was running around with backpacking money, $100 there, $100 here. I took my first year's salary and just banked it into what I thought was a mutual fund. It was something all the expats were doing. And then I just left it for 25 years. And I worked in Hong Kong, and I met my husband and had 3 kids, and we didn't want to raise them in Asia. And we decided to move to Italy. He was English, I was American. We decided to move to Italy, got to Italy, and started renovating a big house. That was a big money sink, and went into olive oil picking, olive oil making. So farming, that's a big money sink, as all the farmers in our mastermind know. And so I ended up here, separated from my husband, with not having worked for 15 years, because I'd been a stay-at-home mom and an olive oil farmer. And that's how I ended up. That's how I ended up finding you all. I think I took Scott I took an online course. It wasn't even an online course. It was one of those Jeff Hayes film productions, like Money Matters or something. And it was just money
Revealed by Jeff Hayes.
Yeah, Money Revealed. And I met you on that, or I listened to your speech on it, about how property was the last bastion of the wealthy, and that's sort of one thing that the average person doesn't get into. To get into property back then, 20 years ago, you needed to have a lot of money. And you talked about how you wanted to make people with $100, $1,000, eventually, $10, be able to get into that. And it always stuck. And I didn't see or hear from you again for 5 years. And then I think Wealth Migrate came up on my radar, probably some social media radar. And I jumped on it. And that's how I found you all again.
And what sort of challenges were you facing at the time? Like, what problems and challenges? We all, there's a great thing that we move 5 times more away from our problems than we do towards our pleasures. So we tend to take action because of problems, not pleasures. So what were the problems and challenges you were facing?
Yeah, the problem was huge. The problem was I'm living in a foreign country. I can't go back into my old career, which was China media, because I'm living in Italy. I had 3 kids to feed. I'd left my husband. And I was like, where's my skill set? So I was actually at the stage of like, just how do you put food on the table? And I, found a place to live, suddenly had 5 income streams, and all 5 of those income streams dried up during COVID. And it was the first time it hit me that I was working for money, selling my time for my hours for time, and that my money wasn't working for me. And COVID and that incident and that realization happened at the same time that 20-year fund came to maturity, and I suddenly had a chunk of cash. It wasn't a lot of cash by any means, but you got to start with what you start with. And I was in that frozen position of like, what do I do with it? Like, I need this money to work for me, because I'm over here scrambling to find a job and to put food on the table for the kids. And I didn't have any debt. I was fortunate. I owned my own home. I owned my car. I didn't have any credit card debt or anything. So in that way, I was lucky. But I was really at that paralyzed, what do I do? What do I invest in? I've read enough, read The Motley Fool every week for 30 years. I thought I was relatively financially literate, but I was frozen. I was just like, what do I do with it? Because No, I was just saying, it was just at that age, where my kids are 20, they can make fiscal mistakes. And I was at that age where I felt like I don't have another, ride it out 20 years, and the stock market always rebounds. I don't have another 20 years to ride it out. Like, I had to do that's what my fear was.
A lot of people talk about wealth protection, and that's what I'm hearing. It's one thing to grow your capital, but you also want to protect the capital you've worked, so hard to create over the years. Why did you choose to work with us? What was it that attracted you?
I I had finally found people that were exactly like me, like from multiple parts of the world, maybe dealing in multiple currencies. We have, some gentlemen in the mastermind that might be South Africans. They're living out in New Zealand. They, the typical, the old fashioned 5 flags. You live in one country, you earn money in another, you've got a bank account in a third, you pay taxes in a fourth. And it doesn't really exist anymore. But it was very hard to find, like-minded people who understood different parts of the world and who naturally understood diversification. And the mastermind narrowed that down and made it even more specific, diversifying across time and currencies and assets, is even more focused. But just the general idea of diversification. I mean, all my European friends just invest in European things, and all my American friends just invest in US things. And a lot of my Hong Kong Chinese friends are heavily invested in China and the BRICS economies. So I really liked that. And then I liked the overall philosophy that we were trying to make what's available to the 1% available to the average person. And that really resonated with me, because no matter how much you learn, you're always thinking, what's that little bit I don't know? What's that part of the puzzle I don't know because I'm not, a high net worth individual.
So tell me, in terms of, you took a leap of faith. We've all done this, where it's like your sort of intuition's telling you to do something, but there's a cost involved, and you're like, I don't know if this is going to work for me. And what's been your experience? I mean, we've been on a journey now for the best part of nearly 12 months, actually. And what's been your experience, being part of this diversification mastermind?
This diversification mastermind was different from every other sort of course or challenge or, I don't know, group I've ever joined, because it took you from the philosophy of how you're supposed to be investing and actually provided us with answers. So it took us from, it's not just, I didn't need the mindset stuff anymore. I felt like I was already there. And it took us from the mindset right to like, well, here's some ideas that you can invest in. And, let's all jump into this together. And if you're not going to invest in what we're providing, here's some other experts in different asset classes who you can go buy a promissory note from, or go buy an EFT from, or go talk to someone in a private, what do they call it? The family management, family asset. What are they called? Yeah. So you provided us, you weren't trying to be all things to all people. It was like, I'm Scott, I'm the property guy, this is what I know. And I'm never going to try and sell you a commodity. And I'm never going to try and sell you stocks and bonds, because that's not what we focus on here. But if you want those things, here are those experts that we're bringing into play as well. So I liked it that it was, it was holistic. Everybody sort of knows what they know, and that we draw on the experts in each related field for people to either choose to work with or not. But so you got that learning curve, but you also get that ability to, to execute and make investments with where you want them.
I think what you just said there is so important. It's the execution. At the end of the day, we got to get results. And, there's absolutely no point in getting more knowledge. And, it's that whole saying of people think knowledge is power. That's rubbish. Applied knowledge is power. So, one of the things I love about your story is that, you've gone and met with Callio. So, again, I would have talked quite a lot about Callio already, but, most people don't get access to a family office. A family office is literally for the super wealthy. They manage $600 million, only 60 families, but through an alignment of interests, actually. So they believe in, helping everybody get access to the same information, the same opportunities. And because of that, they agreed to exclusively work with the mastermind. And because of that, you and I have got access to their skill sets. Talk us through your experience with Callio, because it's been an interesting one to get your feedback.
Callio is phenomenal. You have a half an hour free Zoom meeting with them, and with the president in the room, not just someone who's going to execute. And they say, "What's your story? What are your needs? What's your financial situation?" And I pulled up that matured fund that I had and said, I need to invest this, but I don't want to, I can't invest it for the long term. Here are my needs. I have immediate goals. I have 3 children that have just gone off to college. So I suddenly have immediate financial goals that I'm not going to be able to meet if I keep just relying on my income or selling time for money. And they listened. They asked really smart, relevant questions I wouldn't have thought of, but they were particular to me. And I didn't feel like I was being put into a box of you're this type of investor, or you're this type of investor, or you're this type, And it wasn't just the like, are you high risk? Are you low risk? It was really they really tried to understand my needs. And within 24 hours, they had a proposal to me that said, here's what we're going to do to get you money right now. And then here's what we're going to hold off on and keep discussing and think about and get you into eventually. But here's what we're going to do to solve your immediate problem. And within 1 month, I had income coming in from an investment from them, which just liberated me. I mean, it was just the buffer I needed to not panic about money anymore and to make the rest of the decisions slowly and, from a different mindset.
It's so interesting what you're talking about there, because the most of us just go along, we meet a financial planner, they put us in a box, we stick our money into something we don't even know what it is, and we don't get paid an income. We get promises of long-term retirement, but we don't get an income. And what you just said there is within 1 month, you got income back in your pocket. Now, in my belief, income is freedom. So, and I mean, I know for you, you don't need to go into the personal story, but even then, I mean, it had a dramatic change for you in quite a quick space of time to give you that peace of mind,
A huge space of time. I mean, I'm an online English teacher. The year after COVID, the Chinese government banned all English teaching online. And I went from a 7-day-a-week job to nothing, to zero. And it was, and given that it's China and China's unpredictable, there's always those undercurrents and those rumors among online teachers. They're going to do it again. They're going to do it again. But having that financial buffer means to me that if it happens again and China locks out all online teachers, I'm not going to be sitting here with zero income. I mean, it's a safety net that's just unbelievable to me, that someone who is not by any means a high net worth individual can have your money working for you, can have my money working for me, and give me that peace of mind.
Yeah. So tell me, 12 months ago, you could have been like so many other people, and again, thousands, I don't even know, hundreds of thousands of people have watched me present over the last 20 years. Most of them sort of hear it and don't do anything. 12 months ago, you heard it, took action. If you hadn't have taken action, how would the last 12 months have been in your mind? Like, what would have been the difference?
I can definitely tell you I would still be sitting there with that matured mutual fund in the bank account or pension fund doing absolutely nothing, because it matured 2 years before or a year before I met you all. And I was like, right, get this invested. This was, it was the number one goal every month. Get this invested in doing something. And I just didn't know what to do. I had so many ideas and so much information coming from me. And that's where I was 1 year ago. And, within 2 months of starting the mastermind and, 2 weeks of meeting Callio, that money was invested and working for me. And I honestly believe that if I hadn't found you all, I'd still be sitting on it. It would still be doing nothing. It would still be sitting in a bank account waiting to be invested.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. Or maybe worse, given to a financial planner being eaten away by
to lose more money over 20 years, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Tell me, why is this different? There's lots of masterminds out there. I mean, there's a plethora of information on the internet. Why has this been different for you from, your other previous experiences?
The fact that our philosophy is we're all going in the same direction is wonderful. But I think, certain segments of our life, and when you go into that initial conversation with all of us masterminders, you're breaking down what are our personal life goals, what are our financial goals. Life is more than just finance, but finance is one of those highly emotional, people have a hard time talking about it. It's not polite to talk about money. Maybe we don't discuss it with our best friends, but the mastermind is that one place I can go to where we're all talking about money. It's allowed, it's the purpose of it. And it's that space where we all throw out our mistakes. You've shared with us, I tried this and this, this is what happened to this property and this didn't work. We all can throw out our situations, and we're just all in the same space. We're all in that, let's talk about money, let's learn as much as we can. And, what are the next steps? What are we going to execute for each other? And it's just such a nice space to be in, because you can go out in life and maybe not even talk to your spouse or your best friends or your brother or your kids or your about money. And it's just that space, because it's such an important part of our lives. And it's that space where we all have permission to do that. And we're all going in the same direction.
Yeah, no, I love what you said. And I think, there's so much power in collaboration, and again, just simple metaphor, birds flying in a flock can go 70% further. So unfortunately, I know that, I don't know if you were the same, but certainly myself, I was trying to do it all on my own for 14 years.
Yeah.
This was like, I'm getting nowhere doing this strategy.
Right.
Tell me last thing, if someone's sitting they're sitting here, they're watching this and they're sort of saying, it sounds too good to be true. I don't know, like, what should I do with my life? Have you got any advice like to them? You've been in that situation. What would be your, advice, recommendation? We don't get financial advice.
I think the problem is that if you've made it this far in either the Wealth Migrate platform or the Wealth University you've done, you're already an intelligent person. And that almost works against us because we go like, I'm smart. I can do this. But oh my God, EFTs. All I have to do is Google like top 10 EFTs or, jump onto one of those crowdsourcing, platforms or something. I can do this by myself. And I think it's almost a hindrance being somewhat financially knowledgeable. I mean, it's almost a block because you get to that. Yeah. I've taken the course. I've done a challenge. I can figure it out from here. But there really isn't anything like finding the partnerships that we have in this group. I mean, there is no way, for all of my love of reading financial, documents and being on financial websites and blogs, there isn't any way I would have ever found the partners to invest with and to invest in without being in this group. There's just no physical way I could have ever, industrial buildings in Texas or healthcare centers in Brisbane. How am I going to find those sitting here in the middle of Europe? So, yeah, I think the partnership is the number one reason to join the mastermind. It's not just about the knowledge; it's about how do you execute. But you can't execute unless you have the deals in front of you, and you can't have deals in life, in any aspect of life, unless you have good partners. And it's a partnership that I would highly recommend people to. It's worth the entire investment. Is the partnerships abroad.
Well, thank you so much for your time. Now, thank you for sharing. And for me, the thing that I'm most grateful for with the mastermind is the amazing community that we've got. And you're one of the stalwarts that are leading that community with your energy and everything, which I deeply appreciate. And I love what I love most about your story is that most people assume that everyone's like, uber wealthy and got millions of dollars and, highly sophisticated and whatever. And we're not. You and me are not like that, and yet we can get access to the same knowledge and the same partners. And the thing I love most about when you shared with me your story, it was like, well, look, I've listened, I've acted, and look at what it's given me. And in quite a short space of time. And I think I just deeply appreciate you sharing that with people because hopefully it can inspire others to get the results for themselves.
I would say jump. I mean, when I think of where I was 1 year ago, it's a million miles away. And not just because I have income coming in, but knowing what my next steps are. Like, I know where I'm going. I know where the next chunk of money is going to go into. I know what, I want to invest in. I know what I don't want to invest in. And I know the partners that I want to do it with. And that's just a huge weight off anybody's, financial shoulders.
Awesome. Well, we look forward to further results from you. Thanks so much.
Good. Thanks, Scott.
So did you enjoy that? Real people, real stories. I love it in terms of what is possible. And hopefully, one of the reasons I loved Cynthia's story so much, let me just stop sharing here quickly, is it's a very authentic story, but also my kind of philosophy is she can do it, you can do it in terms of that process. Because sometimes people think, but I'm not some fancy entrepreneur or some fancy investor or some fancy business person. She's a teacher, she teaches children English in China. And so, hopefully that kind of gives you all some hope. Hope and belief is the best way I would say it in terms of that process. So now it is time to pivot into one of the better sessions that we've got. And just to remind you all again, if you want to get started, you've got the Passive Income Challenge, you've got Wealth Going Global, which is the right information. You've got Asset Mastery, which is the right partners, and you've got the mastermind. So Cynthia went straight to the top of the mountain and she joined the mastermind. And what she was talking about was the what she's done with the family office and all of that. And that's what's given her the peace of mind. So I know William and I spoke about in the VIP session. I'm the type of person who just likes to get to the top of the mountain. If you're at the top of the mountain, then everything below is already included. And that's why we built Wealth Hackers as a community to help people get to the top of the mountain. So after watching Cynthia, if it's something of interest to you, just go along to that link, book a call, and or even even if you just want to type in the chat box, just type mastermind, and one of the team members can reach out to you. It's time to pivot to Selwyn, and Selwyn is one of the co-CEOs of Callio Private Equity. His other partner is a gentleman called Glenn. Glenn is a chartered accountant. Selwyn is a PhD, so a doctor and CFA. So just if you don't know, but a CFA is higher than a chartered accountant. And he did his PhD in mathematics at Cambridge. So when you're listening to him and you're thinking due diligence, like my philosophy is, like, would you like to be having this guy on your team from a partnership perspective to be able to find deals? And what's so interesting is that if you read here, they've got all the experience, 20 plus years of investment banking and private equity. And they talk about their experiences, Selwyn talks about his experiences in terms of how to find the right partners. And this is probably, one of the most valuable videos I could play for you around partnership. And just listen, because they manage hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions of dollars, and basically have access through their institutional networks and the family office networks. They have access to the best partners out there. But listen about how they do it, and specifically remember what I told you about the new age way of partnership and diversification. Selwyn, it's awesome to have you. Thanks so much for joining us. Sorry. It's wonderful to have you online. And just before we get started with you, I wanted to share with people a little glimpse into kind of you guys' background. So firstly, in terms of Callio Private Equity, I just love the front of your website, where it's literally communities are more powerful than networks. We're going to talk a lot about this today because, I always say the number one way to manage risk is the right information and the right partners. And how do you do that? Well, it's about getting access to the right networks, basically. You know what I mean? And what you guys do is take it to the next level, which is community. And it's really what we're doing. I mean, on this thing, this diversification challenge is a community of people. At Callio Private Equity, we aim to build and grow community through our investment and advisory activities. We bring it together like-minded individuals and companies that exchange resources and advance ideas, deepening the solidifying relationship of trust. And if I go to team, just to give a little bit of an introduction to Selwyn. So there's two partners, Glenn and Selwyn. So Selwyn has over 20 years of experience consulting and banking locally and abroad. He began his career at McKinsey & Co. in Johannesburg, undertaking projects across Africa. He subsequently co-founded and managed RMB's opportunity in real estate in the global real estate portfolio, and later co-founded the RMB Westport Real Estate Development Fund, the largest sub-Saharan and real estate private equity fund at the time. Prior to joining Callio Private Equity, Selwyn led ABSA's commercial property finance business in Africa as a principal for the ABSA Group. He currently serves on the board of trustees of the African Leadership Academy. And if you don't see it here, he has a PhD, which is a doctorate in mathematics from Cambridge University, which is pretty impressive. So without further ado, Selwyn.
You sound a little bit like my mom, but I appreciate that.
Well, someone has to tell people you came from Cambridge. When we're talking about risk and due diligence, I want people to at least kind of have a bit of a sense of who they're talking to, if that makes sense, in terms of it. So let's get started. And before we go any further, just tell us. I mean, I've read your bio. No one ever likes to brag, so I do it for you. But tell us just a little bit about your journey. I mean, really, you can see you've got a very extensive journey in property, in real estate, in funds, in private equity, etc. Just talk a little bit about it. How did you get into it? And just so people have an idea of who's in the room.
So Scott, I mean, you've read out my bio. I started as an academic and realized that wasn't really an expression of myself. I didn't want to be in research, and I didn't want to be stuck in an institution. And the best way for me to get diverse experience in commerce was through consulting. And when I joined McKinsey in Johannesburg, it was the fastest growing office in the world, McKinsey's fastest growing office in the world. And we had very diverse clients and very diverse projects in operations, strategy, organization, capital planning, and so on. After being there for a few years, McKinsey has gone through phases, as people on this call would know. I joined RMB, and that was actually life-defining for me, joining RMB. My current partner, Glenn Scorgi, was one of the first people that I worked with when I joined RMB. And in your point earlier, I'm actually glad I joined a little early and was able to listen to what you said.
I'll just share here, just so people could see. This is Glenn, who someone's referring to. So
yeah. So Glenn and I started to work together in 2004, I think it was, when we first traveled together. We were looking for opportunities. We had a relatively open mandate. The banking world was very different in those days, much less regulated and constrained than it became after the global financial crisis. And what I loved about the banking world is something that I've retained in private equity, and that I think speaks to your audience, Scott, speaks to the people who are here. And that is the sense that your risk is the risk that you see. Consulting is always 1 degree removed. You're telling people what to do, you're giving advice, and then you walk away. You leave your PowerPoint presentation on the desk, and you get back into your fancy car and drive away, and then go to the next client. With and particularly the RMB culture as it was in those days, you are very well aligned with the bank as your principal investor. And Glenn and I ran a principal investing business, and then later on went into funds and into property and into various other areas inside the bank, but always having that particular philosophy. So I think the journey for me is having found that world where you're very well aligned with the people that you work with the people who supply you with resources, with capital in particular. I always wanted to stay in that. And obviously I moved in banking and developed expertise in property, but I've always liked the idea of being a generalist. And Glenn had developed a relationship with Garth, who you mentioned in your presentation as well, Scott. They were kind of social friends, and Garth wanted to build the capability in Callio for Callio to do private equity in a I think a different way. Just to dwell on that for a moment, private equity investments are often presented as investments into funds, and the traditional private equity managers, the famous private equity managers that are out there, Apollo, Cerberus, Blackstone, and so on, those managers manage giant funds. Glenn and I had both been investors in funds on behalf of RMB and had managed funds on behalf of RMB, and we didn't feel that fully captured the idea of alignment that we wanted with our investors, the idea of a fund. And what we do in Callio Private Equity is direct private equity. That's our core business, it's direct private equity, which is individual transactions or individual investments matched to groups of investors for that investment. So, for example, investors who don't like a particular sector or who want to be more offshore or whatever it is, we can offer them investments that make more sense for their portfolio or for their levels of interest. The other thing that we realized would be very powerful is what you mentioned, Scott, which is the community side. Callio has a family office and a wealth management business. It has clients who, many of whom have been in business or are in business and have networks and links of their own. We don't really like the idea of networking in the sense of, attending cocktail parties and doing that kind of thing.
Just by the way, that's the biggest load of bullshit I've ever heard, where you walk around and hand out your business card.
Yeah, hand out your business card.
It's literally like poor man thinking. Like, it doesn't work. Trust me.
It doesn't work. It doesn't. So the deepest due diligence that you can do on your partner is just knowing them, or knowing somebody who's been in business with them and seen them operate under different kinds of circumstances, and somebody who can vouch for their integrity. So many of the people that we invest in are people that are part of the broader Callio community or our own personal networks, in the sense of we know people who've worked with them, or we know people who've invested with them, and many of our opportunities come through that kind of channel. And I think that's very
By the
powerful.
way, Solid, sorry for butting in. I know people hate me doing it, but I'm just trying to give context to people. Remember to everyone who's listening, remember what I just said literally half an hour ago. What he's talking about is you test people's character not when it's working, it's when it's not working. And that's the power of knowing a relationship, because everyone tells you about all their wins, but they often don't tell you about their losses.
Yes. So, and I mean, for me, the best example is actually my own business, Calio Private Equity. So why is it that after working with Glenn in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, we went our separate ways just because of the way things evolved in R&B and the property businesses and so on. And then we joined together. Glenn and I lived through the global financial crisis together. And we were very, very heavily exposed in our portfolio to that. We managed a portfolio of with assets of over $250 million. But it was exposed to the property sector. So it was the most heavily hit sector during that global financial crisis. But I could see how Glenn worked. I could see how I worked under those circumstances. And you can build a rapport, and you can now build that level of trust, which is so fundamental. And if I look at the investee CEOs that we work with, not all of them have the same level of capability, or to be completely blunt, the same level of integrity or alignment with us. But the point is that we try to find people who will have that alignment. And in situations where they're facing adversity, we'll do the right thing. And at least we'll think through the process with us aligned with them. So to give you an example, and I think Scott in various other presentations, I think Glenn might have presented to a different audience, but Awesome Business Finance, which trades as backed in Texas. Glenn and I were visiting that business last week. The CEO, through COVID period, said he would never stop paying interest to our investors. So we actually offered to him and said, we're pretty sure your business needs liquidity in a time like this. So we're happy to approach our investors and say, you're not going to be getting your interest payments. We felt that might be the right thing for the business. And he said, no, he didn't want to do that. He felt the correct thing was to maintain a 100% track record with us and with our investors, even if that meant making a personal sacrifice on his side. And he was able to trade through, and the business has grown and actually grew through the COVID period. Other competitors went out of business, had to be resuscitated or bailed out, but he was able to do this. And I think he took a risk, but the point was that he wanted to ensure both that he was aligned and that he communicated to us that he had that alignment with us. So I think, Scott, your various comments very pertinent. In our deal making, we try not to be the majority. We want to make sure that management and the people who are going to be required to deliver on the investment thesis.
I'm being rude, but I'm just coming back to this, like what I call old school mentality, new school mentality. Because old school is, and by the way, Glenn did an incredible presentation last week to our mastermind, was about private equity, and I'll show some of the slides. Again, people have access to get asset mastery should they want. But the point being is that the old school way of doing it in business or in property was to go and buy the whole thing, okay? And the first time I ever learned about this, ladies and gentlemen, was actually my father. So my father was the financial director of Rainbow Chickens, and he said that Rembrandt, that's one of the most wealthy families in the world, came in and bought 40% of the company. And now the old school mindset is, no, but I must own more than 50%. I must be in control of the company. And then a couple of years later, my friend works in England for a company called Strand, and they're a private equity firm, funny enough, as well. And they got bought out by a big family, and this family, the Hanson family, bought them for 40%. I thought, shit, there's a pattern there. The wealthiest families in the world are buying 40%. Why are they not buying 51%? Because we're all taught to go buy the whole thing and we must control it and whatever. And the point being is that that's an old school way of doing it, because if you control it, you have to manage it. And then, interestingly enough, literally last week, Glenn said, no, we're into conscious capital, and we'd much rather the founders and the owners and the team and, whatever, have the majority, because then they're going to get out of bed every morning and worry about it and getting it done versus you getting out of bed every morning and worrying about it. So I'm jumping in, Solomon, but I'm just trying to give context to my little picture that I drew here. Basically where you're going,
Yeah, that's exactly it. And then the other component is often leaving space for other key employees. So yes, the founder, manager, it's often also other people who are needed to be aligned and who need to have the same kind of orientation. So we're very keen, like in our contracting, we're very keen being on the remuneration committees of the companies that we invest in, both to avoid the conflict that you have with the CEO founders, but also to manage that next level, to say who else is important here? Are they correctly incentivized? Are they locked in? Is there the correct protection for the company and the correct alignment for that employee? So to try to understand how value is being delivered, and knowing that as an investor, you are bringing a particular kind of value. You're bringing risk capital, but you're not bringing operational capabilities. You're not bringing market knowledge or anything like that necessarily directly. You sometimes can help, and I think we do help our investees. And we often intervene when they want us to intervene, and they'll say, can you help us with this? Can you talk to the bank for us? Can you sit on this call? We've got this issue with one of the other shareholders. Can you help us? We're always available to our investees to do those kinds of things and to investee CEOs and founders. But we're fully aware we're not able to do what a CEO does day in and day out. We're not able to do what a management team does day in and day out. And we're deliberately if we could run, one of our investees, we would, rather than do our current job. But we actually believe that our founders should be the best at running their own businesses, both because they should be fully aligned, but also they should be developing their knowledge as they go, as they operate, and they should have entered with a particular understanding of their business, which obviously we test. Yeah. So, to go back to your original question about personal journey, I think for somebody like me who feels that they're a generalist, wants to be involved in quite a few things, likes the interactions, which are, I think, meaningful interactions with partners. This is a very good job that I have. And I'm able to speak to CEOs about something that's very fundamental to them. In many cases, I'm able to help them, and our role in their lives is actually quite fundamental. And we do have investees who are very thankful for the way we've approached things. And we've actually had people seek us out saying, I know I can get the money somewhere else. I could probably get a better deal somewhere else, but I'd actually rather have somebody who wants to relate to me when things are not going well, will understand that or help me intervene in a positive sense. So that's the conscious capital side, in terms of not just in terms of the final end goal investment, but also in terms of how we operate those investments and how we make those investments on day one.
Yeah. So let's go. I want to share my screen here quickly, and we're not going to regurgitate everything that Glenn went through. So Glenn did this session for our mastermind, and like I said to you, every month we go deep into one asset class. And Glenn, actually, funny enough, literally this month of October, did the private equity one. So again, you can get this as part of asset mastery. But what I just wanted to talk about a little bit was just the asset class of private equity, because some people confuse it in terms of what is it, etc. And in simple terms, it sometimes gets confused, but private equity is where you invest in a company, but it's a non-listed company, so it's a private company, and it can also be a property deal. Like, we're going to talk through some real opportunities now, so people can get a sense of it. But just from your perspective, Selwyn, how would you sum up private equity?
Yeah, I think you've already summed it up. So it's a massive asset class. Normally, when they show private equity or the size of private equity, they're only talking about those things that show up in formal funds. But if you think about it, almost every business, any business that is not listed, is a private equity business in the sense of operating outside the public, outside the public listed markets. So it's a very wide range of potential investees. And it's our area in private equity is a little bit above venture capital, but certainly below what we would normally classify as buyouts or mergers and acquisitions. We invest in what we call growth. So it's the supply of capital to businesses that want to grow and for whom the best form of capital is equity capital and long-term permanent capital in some other form, potentially permanent debt even. So that's how I would classify our version of private equity.
Brilliant. And I think, again, I'm not going to go through all these slides, but going through this whole presentation, there was like, what are the different returns? How do you balance risk and return? There was talking about private equity in 2022 and where the opportunities were. It was talking about the Callio private equity team and taking to extend more around what Selwyn has already spoken about and what differentiates them. But what I wanted to do was actually to pivot. And I want to start talking about some using a deal as an example to kind of talk about kind of risk and partners, because I kind of want to get in. So as an example, this is an opportunity that is literally becoming available as we speak. It's one of the ones that you've done a lot of due diligence on, but let's not use this as an example, as a case study for kind of the type of thinking that you would go through in terms of risk and due diligence. So let's just say now I want to be in American property. I personally have been wanting to be in it since 2010. I've been wanting to get into Manhattan for my whole time, and I've never once been able to invest in New York, let alone Manhattan, because it just never found a way to be able to do it, never found a partner on the ground. And so talk us through, Selwyn, the process you and Glenn go through in ascertaining a market, finding the partner, doing the DD on a deal and determining, yep, this one's good for our investors.
So this is actually a fantastic example, Scott. So one of the sponsors of the underlying transaction for this Catherine Street transaction in Manhattan is somebody called Duncan Randall. Duncan and I have known each other. We were for over 20 years. We were together in McKinsey and we served on the same team and landed up living in the same house for several months, serving a particular client. Duncan is married to an American. He's lived in America for several years now, and he's built a property business using his own money and money from other investors. He had previously been a private equity operator in South Africa. He was one of the founders of Tana Africa, which is funded by the Oppenheimer family and a sovereign wealth fund from Singapore. So here is somebody that we know very well. Duncan knows that we have an investor base that is interested in these kinds of assets. He has shown me personally transactions. Before I joined Callio Capital, I invested with him myself. So I have a sense of how he's operated. I know how he's operated through difficult times like the COVID period and how he's been able to manage assets. He actually approached us and said, this is what's going to come available. I want to structure a deal which will allow your investors to invest into this debt. There are other people in his network that he's offering this to, and so we had we had a chance to review his due diligence, look at the documentation ourselves, ask various questions, understand the market studies, and so on. But the starting point was this was not something we sought out. We did not do a web search and say, well, deals available in Manhattan.
And by the way, if you do that, just quickly, sorry, if you do that, like you're buying the crap no one else in America wants. By the time it's on the web, no one else
exactly
wants.
Right. Yeah, so this is very much a private deal based on relationships that we have and that other people would simply not have access to. So I think this is one of those examples. Every single one of the deals that we have was sourced or has been sourced through somebody coming to us and saying, do you want to participate? Does this interest you? Is this something that your investor base is likely to go for? And then we can interrogate it and say yes or no. In this case, what was brought to us was a very much established transaction. A lot of the initial property work had been done to a very high standard. Duncan himself works with a team that has a lot of experience in this particular kind of property redevelopment, historic buildings in Manhattan that are being redeveloped. There's a system where you get historic credits which allow you to benefit, to effectively do your developments at a cheaper rate because you're getting these tax credits. And So a lot of the work had already been done. It was a question of reviewing that and understanding that and getting a sense of the risk return. We already had a strong sense of the sponsor and the way that they would approach this. So yeah, so this particular transaction, what's been offered is senior debt secured by a long-term lease on a property that was formerly owned by the Catholic Church. It's in the process of being transferred from the Catholic Church to the development company. And the funding is senior funding, as I said. It's secured funding. It's 1% a month payable quarterly. So very good return. We've again, to Scott's principles, we've said we will only take a relatively small portion of it. We're probably going to take somewhere between 15 and 20% of the total debt that's available, so that other people can put their money in. There's a big group of investors, many of whom have invested before with Duncan and with the other sponsors in his team. And so that offers us a sense of comfort. Other people are reviewing the documentation. Other people have experience on this, and there's I think strong alignment with the total investment team.
A couple of things that I think are first you're saying. So firstly, there's power of community. Okay, so like it's not like me trying to do it all on my own. Like, oh my God, I'm going to do all my own due diligence, whatever. It's like there's a whole group of us, like looking at it and whatever, doing it. The second thing is that from a risk perspective, you're effectively taking out the bank. Like you're almost taking the position of the bank because you're putting the first mortgage debt down. So you're behaving like a bank. You're putting the money down. You've got first mortgage debt over the property. So should stuff go wrong, the property's there. It's exactly like when a bank lends you money against your house. And for the bank interest rate, you're getting paid 1% a month, paid quarterly, which basically means you're getting 12% a year in US dollars. Now, please tell me, and again, I've been doing this 28 years, 12% in Manhattan, New York, okay, for a 12-month project. It can be extended to 18 months, but it's still a short-term project, 12 to 18 months. If it gets extended to 18 months, by the way, you still get paid your 1% per month. So you're still getting 12% a year. I mean, that is a really, really good return. Now, you're not getting the capital growth. Remember, you're not playing in this part anymore, but that because you're taking away the risk. So this is an income-producing deal only, but it's a 12% in Manhattan, New York, and you basically have it secured against the property with a partner that's got extensive experience, So I just want to kind of give people a context of what we talk about. These are real life examples now. Like I didn't want to, someone phoned me yesterday and we had a chat and we were like, we can talk about private equity until the cows come home, or we can talk about actual deals, like, because then it's like literally people can learn from actual deals, So that was the one. Now we're talking diversification. And so I tell you what, one was getting a little time machine and an airplane all at the same time. And we're just going to fly across the world, straight over to another continent, another currency, another partner, another asset class, by the way, because that one is effectively a debt deal. Yes, it's in property, but it's a debt deal in property. And now we're going to fly across the world to Germany, which, by the way, is the #1 economy in Europe. And we're going to look at a euro deal, and it's actually an equity deal in terms of that process. So if I come here, so let's do the same process now with this deal. Because I'm trying to give people a concept of, from the comfort of their couch, they can get access to partners, they can get access to information, they can invest, and they don't have to get on an airplane.
Yes, they don't have to get on an airplane, and they don't have to visit small towns in Germany. So just to give some context on Germany and why the opportunity is a genuine diversifier, Scott, because United States, Manhattan, that is the center of the universe, at least according to New Yorkers, and a lot of people, that would be the center of the universe. In Germany, a big chunk of the economy is run out of towns that you and I are unlikely to visit or be able to find on the map necessarily without some kind of help. So the examples are Volkswagen's based in a town called Wolfsburg. This particular town, Wuppertal, is home to a couple of industrial brands like Vorwerk and suppliers into the motor industry. It's not far from Düsseldorf. But it is a secondary town, but with a very strong industrial base. So just to give a sense, this kind of opportunity is fundamentally different and is a genuine diversifier. And in Calio, this would be the third deal that we've done with the same sponsor. The sponsor, interestingly, was also introduced indirectly to me through people that I knew and several people that I know had invested with him previously, and very successfully. It's managed by somebody called Peter Katz. Peter used to run the Redefine portfolio in Europe. And he then went on his own and uses private money and has a very similar mindset to us, which is quite important. He also raises funding, does a kind of an equity raise for each individual investment, and does it. He wants to do it through people that he trusts and that he knows. So as I said, this is the third one we've done through Callio, but before that, I'd actually been exposed to several of his other transactions. And again, I'm used to his due diligence process. It's very rigorous. It involves technical elements, engineering studies of the buildings, for example, studies of existing leasing documentation, tax structuring, and so on. Those are extremely important in this kind of transaction. What's been offered here, though, and again, to Scott's point, is actually equity. So it is an equity exposure. It does have a reasonable yield. We expect a kind of mid to high single-digit yield initially. It has in-place debt, which is important. It has debt that was entered into and that will be assumed on transfer of the property when interest rates were still low and that were fixed at that time. So there's a massive benefit in that.
But just on that, sorry, so what's really important here, people always say to me, oh, but Scott, if I buy a house, I'm getting a mortgage, so I'm getting leverage and, et cetera, et cetera. And what you're saying is so important because you are still getting leverage. The only difference is, even if you got $100 million and you fly to Germany right now, the chances of you getting debt are zero. Because you've got no relationships. And if you do get debt, you're going to get very expensive debt compared to partnering with a local person that's got a track record, got experience, has the debt in place, and like you said, has fixed it prior to the interest rates rising. So it sounds too good to be true, and it is if you're trying to do it on your own, unless you've got partners.
Yes. So these deals that these deals that we're talking about, Scott, are a little bit different from the deals that we normally do as a pure private equity house. Anyone who visits our website will see deals that we've done directly. These deals are deals that have been brought to us by people who are part of our community, and people that we've invested in personally, or who are people that have been invested in by like friends of ours and other members of the Callio community. And so these are a little bit different, but these are not possible to do from where we're sitting. And we have to rely on the individual partners and the networks that they've built. So for example, Peter has a whole team of people who do due diligence for him in Germany. He has a legal team that has worked with him on multiple transactions. He has an administrative team that is able to manage the investment structure for him. And those are things that if you and I were trying to build those from scratch or trying to do on our own, we simply would not be able to do without years of work and without having been in the market previously. And the benefit of somebody like Peter is he built up his infrastructure while working for Redefine and building their European portfolio years back. Then going on his own, he decided to focus on particular asset classes. He did a study. He said there's certain kinds of assets that seem to do well through the markets. Health assets, diversified assets, basic necessities, properties that deal with basic necessities. And then the German market in particular has certain resilient features to it, including the availability of debt from multiple funders. Again, but Scott's point stands. It's not possible for us to arrive there, drive out to Wuppertal, and to start doing deals. These deals come along quite rarely. This is the first deal we've seen for over a year from Peter. Just hasn't felt that the other deals that he's seen are good enough for his investment, for his investors.
Yeah,
so that's just
to put in perspective, so the last deal you guys did with Peter, and you've done 3, so there's track record, yes. You've already said. But I remember there was a deal as COVID was happening, and one of your investors got spooked, and there was a gap for 700,000 euros. And I was like, pick me, I want to be in it. And we tried to go to our investor base, and we just couldn't move quick enough, because these things move quickly when it's a good deal. And again, I remember it being a DIY store. Anyway, and the long story short was, it was a great income return. It had good capital growth. and you guys exited that in 18 months or something, and got
Yes.
a 1.8 multiple, which basically means if you put $100 in, you got $180 back, which is like really good in less than 2 years. And it's, again, like it was, for me, it was so frustrating. It was like, I was like, I want to be in the deal, but we just couldn't act fast enough, And one of the reasons we created the mastermind was that sometimes through the Wealth Migrate platform, it takes too long to get stuff set up and blah, blah, blah. And sometimes with the mastermind, it's like, guys, it's a good deal. We need to move quickly. Are you in? Are you out? And sometimes that's how private equity works. You've got to be able to act fairly quickly. So when this deal came along and you were like, same operator, same person, I was like, if you don't let us get in this deal, it's gonna be war. You know what I mean? So really, really appreciate it. Peter, let's go to the last one. So again, let's go back in our time machine now, back in our airplane, and we're going to fly right across the world back to Austin, Texas. And again, we're going to go into a different asset class now. It's still under the umbrella of private equity, but now you're actually investing in a company. And Peter's, I keep saying Peter now because you put Peter in my head. Someone's already mentioned this company, Backed. Just tell us a little bit about this, because I mean, these are literally three opportunities that we're looking to go live with you on, in the near future.
Yeah, so Scott, I want to stick with the theme that you raised, this partnership theme. So Backed is the trading name of a company called Austin Business Finance. Austin Business Finance is founded by a South African called Zaan Myburg. Zaan is also founder of Cashflow Capital, which is a business here in South Africa, and is a working capital lender, mostly to restaurants, franchisees, and so on. And he moved to America, and we, as in Calio, started financing him pretty much from the beginning, just feeling that he had a good concept, he was a good operator, and he had a model for dealing with a kind of risk managed model for introducing himself into the US market. So we've been invested since 2019, and we invested in equity and permanent debt. And now that's all been taken up, but the business is a lending business. It does what are called merchant cash advances and lines of credit to medium-sized and small corporates in America. That is a massive market. United States is obviously a very dynamic economy. There are hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of businesses that actually fall into scope for Backed. And it's mostly working capital lending of less than 18 months and relatively high interest rates, because it's generally lightly secured or unsecured lending. And what's important is that over the years, we've been able to monitor the credit performance, and we've been able to monitor the management performance. And Glenn and I were there last week, and we sat with the management team. We were able to see Zaan has built a business which now has 56 employees, 46 based in Austin, 10 based in California. He sources deals through brokers and through a direct team. He's got a refined technology system for reviewing deals, assessing the credit risk, and a very small percentage of deals that are referred ever get funded. But there's massive scope in a business like this. Backed was actually rated by Inc. It was rated as one of the top 1,000 fastest growing businesses in the United States, ranked in the top 200 last year. So it's viewed and seen as a successful high growth business. What's been offered is debt, again, at 10% per annum. It's a very different profile, very diversified. That's US dollar debt. And that's money that goes into the business as subordinated debt and then is used to finance the operations of the business, mostly lending, mostly directly going into building the book of Austin Business Finance.
Awesome.
There is a senior lender. And this helps us as well, because it's not just our due diligence. It's Fortress, one of the world's biggest lenders, is the senior lender to Austin Business Finance. And they have a line of $50 million, expandable to $100 million.
It's amazing. So, and you also, you guys put your money where your mouth is. As I understand it, yes. Debt and your equity, you've got $20 million in the.
Yes, $20 million. We have exposure to it.
So
and I'm personally invested. Well, personally, it's actually my wife who's personally invested in this business. Glenn is personally invested in this business. So it's yeah, we definitely put our money where our mouth is, just generally. But with this opportunity in particular, it's been a very good investment for us. We've been able to see it grow from initiation, and we built a very strong rapport with the management team. Obviously, like any other business, it has its challenges and it has its risks and so on. But the risk return profile, I think, is massively compelling for a debt instrument. To get 10% per annum and to have an investment term of 3 years. Given where interest rates are likely to go, I think I just think that's very compelling.
Yep, no, completely. Just one thing we forgot to mention here. This building in Germany is, so just to remind everyone, this one is a 12% US dollar income return per year. This one is a 6 to 6.5% euro income return, again paid quarterly, with a total return including capital growth of somewhere between 13 and 15% in terms of that process. And then this is a debt deal at 10% in US dollars. So you've got euros, you've got dollars, you've got debt, you've got equity, just to kind of give you an idea of different types. Selwyn, as always, it's a pleasure to chat. I love what you've done today just with everyone and sharing with everyone. I'd love anyone to give comments in the chat box as to what you thought. What we've done very consciously today is we've taken away a lot of the theory and we've talked practical about actual partners and actual deals so that people can understand it. Because again, I can waffle about the theory till the cows come home. I've got an entire course on it, Wealth Going Global and Asset Mastery. You can go and do all of the research. But in my opinion, there's nothing more powerful than learning while doing. And what you've helped us do today very consciously is go through 3 deals and hopefully for everyone, literally learn while doing. And even if you're watching the recording and these deals are gone, because they will be gone. They're going in the next, one of them is closing in a month, the other one in a month, in 2 months. The point is, might be watching the recording, but it still gives you a concept of when deals come, how they work, particularly when we work with Kalia.
Scott, thank you so much. I love the opportunity to speak about my business. I love the opportunity to speak about my deals. And I'm also glad that I joined early to see what you said about partnerships, because that's so fundamental to the way we operate as well. Yeah,
no, well, look, it's I fundamentally believe it's the collaboration and partnerships is the currency of the 21st century, and that is built on trust. And the reason I say that is that let's say that the currency of the 21st century is trust, but how do you achieve trust? Well, it's collaboration and partnerships. It's the only way. It's the only way to do it. If you try to do it all yourself, it's literally the old school way of doing it, and then you're going to be stuck probably in your country, in your asset class, in your town, in your currency, and because it's virtually impossible to go internationally without collaboration and partnerships and to truly diversify. But there's lots of brilliant comments coming through, Selwyn. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks,
and have an awesome day, dude.
Bye. Thanks, everyone.
Sorry, I didn't have my camera on yet. Did you enjoy what you learned there? He's an interesting guy, eh? And I'm sure you would say to me, it'd be lovely to have him in your corner, actually being able to help people understand the investments, et cetera, and with the due diligence, So I loved what he said, even them with all their firepower, they wouldn't go to Germany and try to do a deal on their own. And then the question I always have for people is, well, why would you try and do it all on your own in terms of that process? So let's rock and roll and wrap up for the day. I've got some more gifts for you. There's a recording in the resources with Judd Dunning. So he's the guy that does the industrial property in America. And then also Bruce Saunders. We've done over $100 million in deals with Bruce Saunders. Also an incredible guy. I met him, well, I've known him for a long time, but I met him again when I was in America in September, October. And it was just fascinating what is actually happening on the ground there. And they're currently managing 17,500 units. They're raising sort of $50 million. So it's really interesting what's happening on the ground. So as Albert Einstein said, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. I think one of the things that I asked you right up front is, are you feeling overwhelmed? And sometimes I get accused of and not accused, rightly accused of overwhelm in terms of, the overall process. And honestly, we're just trying to share with you a lot of the information. I remember the game that I remind you of the game that we played, which was where if a doctor gave you a diagnosis of a serious medical condition, and you had to lose 10 to 15 kilos as quickly as possible, would you basically go with option one, which was a home study course, or would you go with having a coach? And I think we've all agreed that it'd be far better to actually have a coach. It's 2025, and you really got the option now of, the home study courses are there. You've got the right information, you've got the right partners. You can get both of them as part of the Wealth Hackers, or you can kind of have the coach and you can go through the 9 steps. You can be part of the mastermind, and between ourselves and the family office, we can literally hold your hand. And so I kind of finish off with asking you a question. And in my opinion, you've got 2 choices. So let's just think about this a little bit. Would you invest 6K, 12K, or even 24K if all it did was help you achieve your freedom goal? Would it be worth it to you? What would your freedom goal be worth to you? And what about if it provided you a way to protect your wealth that you already have created? Would it be worth 6K, 12K, or 24K? What about if it saved you a decade of your time? Would it be worth 6K, 12K, or 24K? And what about if all it did, and you got that passive income, provided you with that peace of mind? Would it be worth 6K, 12K, or even 24K? You met Michael on Monday, and he joined this journey in early 2013. And he literally said, when I joined, it was the best money I ever spent, and I would never have done it if I tried to do it myself. And so the option people have, and unfortunately at the mastermind level, it's a limited option because we only have a couple of spaces to be able to onboard people, because it takes time. I sit with you one-to-one, the team sits with you one-to-one, family office sits with you one-to-one in terms of that process. So it is something that resonates with you, if you like the partners, if you like what Cynthia shared, etc., if you like what we're doing, then certainly there's the link, the Diversification Mastermind. You can come along and join us in terms of that process. And as always, you can go and see what everyone else has had to say. And that's what it's all about. It's all about having that coach. Someone can literally hold your hand and take you on this journey. And I'm a big believer that this is your comfort zone, and this is how you make sure that the magic actually happens. And so that's what the mastermind is all about. If we wrap up for today with the action steps, your silver is identify one risk in your current investments and outline how diversification can mitigate it. Name 3 things which you can do to find the right partners and the right information. And consider the passive income challenge. We've given you a link to that, Wealth Hackers, and the mastermind. And we've given you the links to all 3 of them in terms of that process. And always, as always, share one key takeaway with your fellow group. As the gold, as a bonus, we've given you both Judd Dunning and Bruce Sanders in terms of that process. And I remind you of the formula. It's diversifying across countries, currencies, assets, partners, and time. If you do want to join the Wealth Hackers, it's an annual subscription, and you get access to everything, including the weekly sessions from a coaching and accountability perspective. I remind you of the aspirational ladder, where we get started with the passive income challenge. Then we go up to the right information, wealth going global, then to the asset mastery, which is the right partners, and finally to the diversification mastermind, which is the family office. And the Wealth Hackers is what actually helps you climb up the aspirational ladder. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together in terms of that overall process. To those of you that are part of the VIP, we're now going to pivot over to the VIP in terms of that process. I'm sure you know about the groups already in terms of joining the WhatsApp group and the Facebook group. And if you want to talk to a human, my strong recommendation is book a call, book a discovery call. I remind you that the two most important things that hopefully I've now basically indoctrinated you with is you need the right information, and today we've been going through the right partners. What do we do tomorrow? Well, it's about putting it into practice. We spent day 1, 2, and 3 going through the right information. Today we've gone through the right partners. Tomorrow it's all about building a wealth plan and putting it into practice. And so let's wrap it up with Nelson Mandela. Money won't create success. The freedom to make it will. Thank you very much for everyone's time. Thank you for all the comments in the chat box. Really, really appreciate it. And I look forward to actually seeing you, to the VIP people. I look forward to seeing you in the room right now. And to those of you tomorrow, I look forward to seeing you in terms of wrapping it up. You know, they always say in a race, it's not how you start a race, but how you actually finish a race that counts. See you tomorrow. Cheers.